What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast. Another fine Sunday here. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined by the full crew back together again. To my right, my left, however you're looking at it, the man himself, you know him, the beautiful seven, Mr. Dan Rodriguez. Good morning, sir.
I'm here this week, which is crazy. I'm going to be gone next week because it's vacation day, but
This guy, he's part-time. He's part-time at this point.
I'm doing the part-time thing right now.
No benefits for you anymore. I'm cutting.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm good with that at this point.
Somehow there's benefits. Somehow surviving just barely and hanging on after a long day and evening trying the new raid, which we're going to talk about with Destiny, is Mr. Tie Guy Travis. What's happening, my friend?
McClunky, I'm here. I'm energized and I'm ready to talk about games and also games. That's me, Travis Northup.
Is that like two lies and a truth there? We have to figure out what
right? Yeah, that's me trying to play it cool, guys. I'm really fun at parties, as you know.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, our head of our legal department. Officially, we probably shouldn't even say that, but you know him, Mr. Hogue himself. What's happening, sir?
People take liberties with my introduction that often sound like I'm providing legal advice. So, as a disclaimer, no legal advice on this channel or to Ains or to anyone else. We're going to have some fun here. We're going to try to bring the energy up a little bit. Remember, guys, every show could be somebody's first show. I want to present as strong as possible. That's what they used to say back in drama club, way back in the day. Way back in the day.
Of course you were a drama kid. So was
I got to tell you, I went to an all-boys high school, and drama was the best way to, let's say, get out there. So we paired up with some sister schools. It was a good time.
There you go. Always finding a break in the system.
Mine was a good way to not meet girls, is how I describe
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Different priorities. It's all right.
Different priorities.
It is a little hard when you're dressed as a farmer and singing Oklahoma, but you get through it.
That's true. It's a good icebreaker.
One of the best intros we've had in a long time, I must say so myself.
Hey,
good morning,
theater, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Good morning, chat. Good to see everyone. A couple things to touch on. So we did pass 10,000 subscribers a couple days ago. So nice little milestone for the channel. Thank you, everyone who tunes in, interacts with us, and we've kind of blown past 10,000 and we're cruising right along. So big thank you to everyone who obviously tunes into this show, but also tunes into everything else we put out there, and just appreciate all the support as always. So big thanks for that. One thing I wanted to comment on that, and Travis touched on this last episode, is we're admittedly not very good at self-promotion here. I'm not good at it. I don't think as a show we're good at it. And so, we really do kind of rely on you guys listening to us to kind of spread by word of mouth, share this out, give us a like, a comment, what have you. As you know, we're not the type of show that's out there yelling from the rooftops about how great we are or anything like that. So if you like the show, you enjoy it, you enjoy hanging out with us every Sunday or listening the week after, please please tell someone, share it out. Need a gaming podcast for every week. We greatly appreciate it. So
absolutely. And if it's your first time here, subscribe right now and try to forget that you did subscribe, even if we offend you at some point during this episode. That's the way to do it. Get them in before they know what we're going to talk about. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, ring bells, upvotes, downvotes. YouTube, big secret. They love downvotes. You want to hit us with a downvote? Fantastic. That's engagement, baby. But subscribe, get in there. It's going to be great.
The sad thing is he's not wrong at all.
Yeah. I like the Hogue's pitch for this could be the latest show that you scroll past in your feed.
That's right. You never know.
It could be right at the top every week and you never look at it. It's fine as long as it's up there, right?
Yeah.
So one thing we wanted to touch on just at the top of the show is kind of what's going on in Ukraine right now. I know that a lot of companies, publishers, developers are touching on it and kind of implementing certain, responses to it, we'll say. We had a conversation on Cast Co-op, me, Joe, and Luke did around this and whether or not people like to see their content creators talk about serious issues, political issues, what's going on in the world or not. Some people do, some people don't. Some people don't have a preference. But I just wanted to mention it to basically say that, my perspective, and you guys can obviously add your thoughts here. But what I said on cast was, I think there's a fine line. It's not obviously that, we're naive to what's going on, not empathetic to what's going on. And I find ways to support a number of causes in, my personal time. Generally speaking, I try to stay away from those types of issues in content creation, only because there's so much context and nuance and things to these situations that, one, I don't claim to be an expert on personally, and two, there's usually not enough time to have a serious conversation about these things that involves the context and the nuance and all the aspects of what may be going on. So I just wanted to put that out at the top of the show, that it's not that, certainly not that it's not important. It's not that we're ignoring it, just that it's not something that, generally speaking, you're going to see me talk about these things in detail on any of the shows I do or the content I put out. Now, obviously, guys, you feel free to add your 2 cents here.
Well, I put up a video the day of the invasion, and I got a comment that I thought was very well intentioned. My community is fantastic over at Virtual Legality. And they said, basically, how can you talk about whatever it was I was talking about that day, Activision, something else that I was talking about? How can you talk about that when this kind of thing happens? I said, well, I'm very empathetic to that, right? And I don't think we should ignore those kinds of things. And I think we can touch on certainly the fact that Sony has pulled Gran Turismo from Russia, and a lot of other companies are doing those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of places where you can get that kind of conversation, a lot of places where you can get foreign policy analysis, a lot of places where you can have that kind of deep, hopefully useful conversation. There's all sorts of complaints to be made about the internet in today's day and age, but hopefully you're getting the information you want. For the most part, my feeling is we're here to talk about games. You don't have to be immersed in everything that's happening in the world, good or bad. And you can give 2 hours or the length of a Virtual Legality video. And hopefully I'm providing expertise and commentary and usefulness for what I know. Not a foreign policy expert, not a diplomat, not a politician, not a head of state. But I did do a video this week on what I saw happening with, I think I called it Gaming versus Russia, as that continued to roll out. And I said basically that same kind of disclaimer. So my feeling is entirely in agreement with you, Ains, which is, we should talk about these things insofar as they impact gaming and impact us. But we have to acknowledge we're not experts at this stuff. And for the most part, I think people are tuning into the Bitcast to not have an analytic, intellectual discussion of foreign policy and the lack of 2 decades of American intervention, Russian intervention, whatever it might be. So certainly I'm not equipped to have that conversation, and I doubt very much that people are coming here to hear that from us. So that's basically my position on this stuff.
That said, if you do want to talk about it, you can always DM me. I'll talk to you about the stuff. There's a time and place for everything. I'm not exactly an expert, but I do keep track of politics very, very closely and love talking about it. So, if you want to know what the nerdy guys on Bitcast think, just DM me. I'll tell you. I'll tell you what's what. I'll explain the situation to you.
Disclaimer: Travis's invite to DM did not apply to all of us.
It does not. It does not. You can DM me. I got nothing to do, man. I'll talk to you about the international implications of invading a country and becoming a war criminal. It's fascinating stuff. It's a second love of mine, but I would need a second show really to talk about it.
Dropping light commentary. Yeah. So Travis can't help himself. That's why I love you, Travis.
Yeah. I can't help myself.
I'll just take the Ricky Gervais route and say that most of us, including gaming companies, don't know crap about the real world. So shut the up. That's what I'll say. How about that? I even muted myself. I mean, I don't have a preference one way or the other. I know why I'm on this show. I want to talk about games. If these companies want to do it, fine. I'm not sure how qualified they are, to give any kind of commentary, I guess. Really anybody that's not directly involved. But that's always been my thing, with Twitter. I've always said, get your houses in order before you come on here and complain about stuff that doesn't really affect you necessarily, or that it isn't in your wheelhouse. So, and that's never going to happen. I wish it did. I think there should be like a strict set of rules for being able to post on certain places, which sounds kind of bad. But I mean, just like, have like a decent credit score, and like, maybe, don't have, more than like, $5,000 in debt, maybe. I don't know, something, not including your house, obviously, but, just.
You want, wait, hold on. I want to just plumb this a little bit. You want social media?
Yeah, oh no, this is so bad.
No, it's the truth. I mean, I have listen, the opinions of people that come on there that have so many problems in their own lives, probably, and they're coming on and making any kind of commentary on anything related,
especially to something as serious as what we're talking about.
Something as serious as this. Your opinion is irrelevant, and shut up. That's what I'm trying to tell people, and I wish people would do that. And Twitter would be a better place for it, I think. And I'm not trying to, maybe quiet people up, but I mean, just, hey, maybe your wife really needs some help with something. Maybe go help her before you come on, come on Twitter and complain about microtransactions. I don't care, or whatever it is, and that's everything, So I mean, that's kind of my stance. It's always going to be my stance. That's why I kind of shut up on Twitter for the most part.
You can also DM me if you want to talk about the effects of censorship and why it's a bad idea.
Actually, this reminded me. I think we need to tape a disclaimer that says these are 4 opinionated individuals, and none of the opinions represented by anything anybody says represents the other 3 in any capacity. I'm just funning with you, Dan.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my
I'm just
God.
saying. I mean, just
I understand the impulse. I'm going to sit with Travis and say the impulse should be thwarted and pushed really far down, because you can fight stupid people with better ideas. 100%.
How will you know which one's stupid?
Right. Well, I mean, that's the problem.
Dan isn't allowed to say that everybody should shut up. You know what I mean?
We're gonna continue to go far afield, right? Because you got YouTube and Facebook and social media doing that already. That's one of the issues. But suffice it to say, we think you want to talk about gaming, and if you do want to dive into this topic a little bit more, you can DM Travis. You can just chat with Dan at any time, and I've got a video in virtual legality on it. Dan's inviting you to chat with him. He would love to hear from you.
And Nick says, appreciate you guys keeping it gaming centric. So
that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And it doesn't mean we're ignoring the world. It means, hey, this is a 2-hour respite, so hopefully we can chat about some fun stuff. And then if you want to go and plumb the depths of the news, you're welcome to it.
Exactly right.
And with that said, let's escapism.
Guys, why not?
I'm going to escape out of this.
A good idea.
Rick supposedly has an on-the-spot question for us today.
That's right. I was told that I should put together an on-the-spot question. And so some of you may have heard the news in the last couple of days that Elden Ring had a little bit of a Steam problem, had a little bit of a bug. Its cloud saves were not updating at the same level as its local saves, as I understand it. Now, I believe that's been fixed in the last couple of days. But with that as the kind of background, these people were losing massive amounts of progress in Elden Ring. What is the most devastating loss of progress, loss of save that you've experienced in gaming, whether intentionally, accidentally, or by whatever other means?
So like loss of
let me give you an example. Let me give you an example, right? So I was playing through Final Fantasy Tactics back whenever that came out, 1990s or whatever. My brother and I got into a fight. My brother, wonderful guy, not as wonderful during that particular year grouping. He threatened to delete my, I think it was 87 hours save of Final Fantasy Tactics because he was mad at me for who knows why. We were in high school. I have no idea. I can't remember the exact reasons. He was bluffing. He was faking it, but his hand slipped. And he deleted that 87-hour save. And he was so apologetic. I could call him up right now and he would apologize right this second. Have you ever experienced something where you just lost progress, whether it was a bug, a blue screen of death, a brother that just got a little bit too feisty for you in your high school years? Travis is shaking his head. You've never lost significant progress?
No, I'm shaking my head out of sorrow. Oh my God. I have so many examples of this. I went through it like I lost save files in Elder Scrolls Morrowind that had a couple 100 hours on them. Those were, oh my God, devastating. Like just so bad. And those were like my hardware failed or my mom threw the Xbox out the window, like shit like that. I was like,
sure,
I couldn't fix it. As one does. Yeah. My mom was ruthless. And then I think the worst one was I actually didn't get affected by the Red Ring of Death during the Xbox 360. It was weird. I bought an Xbox 360 and a PS3, and my PS3 completely died 2 weeks after I bought it. I didn't even get to finish the game I bought it to play, which I think was Heavy Rain. It was like very bizarre. And then my 360 lasted like 8 years. It was like it lasted so long. I don't really understand why. And the Xbox continued to work long into its life. I still have that Xbox. It's crazy. But the external drive died one day. The drive that you have to snap on and off. It just died. And
I remember that thing.
I lost everything. It was like my house burned down. I lost every save I'd ever had. This was before cloud saves were a thing. It was like right at the tail end. Cloud saves were about to become a thing. And this was such a problem for me. It's actually informed why I play on Xbox. The main reason I play on Xbox is because of the ecosystem. PlayStation's cloud saves are just years behind the Xbox ecosystem. And I have not lost a save game since I joined the Xbox ecosystem in the age of cloud. Like it's just been so much better. And I have lost PlayStation saves since because of stupid stuff.
There's some weird stuff that happens when it's like we didn't sync right, and
it's not as good. And I'm one of those guys where like I've had enough heartbreak, and now I'm not dating again. You know, I'm just having trouble. So yeah, I have so many stories of this.
Losing a whole hard drive is great. That's what this question was about, to bring up those feelings of sadness. Absolutely.
Sometimes I'll forget I lost the save, and I'll go back to play something, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, this is one of the games that's all gone." It hurts me so much, man.
It's funny. My house got robbed, and the thieves took my Xbox, and I had a set of games on a thing, and you have to itemize what was stolen, and I couldn't remember exactly all the games that were on that sheet, and then it would just be like 6 months later where you're like, "Oh yeah, I was playing. I should play. Oh crap, I don't own that anymore. I have to go figure out how to go get it." So
did they leave your Wii U though?
So
that's a real question.
It was very selective. They stole my Xbox and my Xbox games. The PlayStation 3 was next to it. There were monitors on both things. No, not touched. It was the Xbox without the cords, just a box. It was like a scalpel strike. And then they took the rack of the entire games. Like they just emptied it. I don't know. I didn't see them do it.
Hogue was robbed by Xbots. They hate Sony products.
And then my account was stolen from a FIFA backdoor at some point, and then they couldn't restore that. So it's been a long and winding journey with video games.
I'll say one more before I let Dan and Ains do. And this isn't really a save progress loss, but it feels like it, which is that my data was leaked through the ESA on that E3 hack that happened. Yeah, and that was another one where like once people can send you physical mail, it opens a door to a whole like level of hate that I didn't know existed, and I've been dealing with that for like years. So
people are sending you physical mail.
Oh, death threat! I got death threats. My first IGN review, physical mail death threats. It was like, yeah, that's how I started in the industry.
That's how you knew you made it.
What was your first review of a game at IGN?
My first review of a game at IGN was a game called. How am I forgetting it? It was.
This is real on the spot.
Yeah. No, it's. What's funny is if you asked me any other day, I'd remember. But I've been up for 48 hours, so I actually can't.
No worries.
The name. But it was like this indie game that's kind of like they were trying to like do a Breath of the Wild Dark Souls game. It was like they were just trying to SEO their game into being good. It was a nightmare. I think they just gave it to me because they were like, "Hey, you're a new reviewer. Here's something that we don't care about." And I ended up having to play through the game 3 times because it was so busted. I wrote my review and then I put it live, and then the publisher claimed that they gave me an old version of the game and that I knew it and that I wrote a bad review just to be evil. And then they made me replay it, and they were like, "This is the one that works." And it was even more broken. It was like worse. It was so bad. So I had to play through this terrible game 3 times. I'm going to remember its name sometime during this.
You just shout out a name randomly.
I'm going to.
During this podcast.
You're in the middle of the conversation.
I'm going to. And then you guys are going to be like, "Oh, there it is." Yeah.
I shockingly don't have any example that's too bad here. I mean, guys as old as us, right? Or as old as me and Dan and Rick. Travis a little younger. But, we grew up in the memory card era, right? Or the battery save era. Like we joked about Phantasy Star. I still have my original copy over there, and that has a battery in the cartridge that saved your games, and it came with a disclaimer in the book saying the battery will only last so many years.
Decay of Logos. Remembered it. Wasn't even that long.
Yep. Decay of Logos. I've never heard of it.
Decay of Logos. Sorry. You can read it on IGN. It's not a good game anyway.
But like, so over time, your saves would just die automatically. There was no other option back in the day. But I do remember I had one save in Phantasy Star, so you could have 3 saves on that, and I had all 3. And I started a new game to try something, and I ended up saving, or I did something where I messed up my long save deep in that game. And that was heartbreaking as well. Kind of like you, as soon as you do it, you have that sudden thought of panic, like, oh God, did I just actually do that? And then, realization sets in, and it's not a good time.
Yeah. No, I've accidentally deleted the wrong game before. Definitely.
And there were, you know what? Elu just said losing passwords. What was the game? There was a game on Sega Master System, I think, or Genesis. No, it was Genesis that required a long password. And I'm talking about like 64 letter characters, and it could be like letters, numbers, or characters. And so I had a sheet of just these super long passwords to try and recreate the game. Maybe it was zillion. I don't know. My memory's not serving me here, but
I remember those. You never know whether you wrote an uppercase or lowercase W.
Yeah,
your zeros and your O's are a little off. Oh yeah, yep. Those good times.
Freaking wild, man. Wild.
Yeah, I think I've lost. I know I've lost like the old PS2 cartridges, memory cards, or whatever they were.
Sure.
And that happened all the time. You go to your friend's house, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and how'd you get a nice new blue memory card, Dave? Yeah. Okay, sure. Looks just
you
like
formatted it,
Yeah, whatever. The most recent one, and it still bothers me. I played through The Witcher 3. I mean, I did. I had
that's a long
hundreds and hundreds of hours out of it on there, and I cannot access that save game because of every time I try to, it tells me that I don't have the proper downloaded, piece of DLC. I have every DLC downloaded. It's just for some reason it will not let me go there. I can't start a new game plus with any of my old saves like I wanted to. And I can't even just launch it and then make a new save, like a manual save, and then start a new game plus off of that because of some kind of conflict with the DLC. And I don't know what that is. And it shows you, it pops up. It says, you don't have this, this, and this. Bullshit. I got all these damn things. There's like 800 DLCs, like little mini DLCs. There's a ton of them. And they're all on there. I went back and checked, tons of times. I looked for those specific ones that it said, and it will not let me access it.
It's not the complete edition versus the normal edition problem, is it?
No, it's
not. That's
a
bummer.
It sucks. And I don't understand why that's happened. And that one really kind of got to me because I was like, man, it was close to 200 hours in that save, and because that was all the DLCs that I did them all. Man, now I'm mad. This is not great.
And that's what On the Spot's all about. All right, let's begin.
Good spot here. All right. Let's go ahead and get to these super chats. Let's start back up at the top here.
For, what is it, Gecko Gamer? Thoughts on the new Pokemon gen? I did not know there was a new Pokemon gen. That's my thought.
Scarlet and Violet. And if those don't sound the opposite or complementary to you, they don't sound opposite or complementary to anybody.
I can't comment here, Gecko. I think Travis may be our best suited, who is now being cut off because of our lovely foreground here. Travis, any thoughts on the new Pokemon gen? I think he is.
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm excited for some new Mons. I hope they include the whole Pokedex this time. I love Pokemon.
New Mons.
It's hip. Is that
some new monsters? Should I say some new pocket monsters
for
the
pocket monsters?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like they're taking Arceus and putting it into a modern gen version. So that should be a combo that works.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much, Gecko Gamer. Appreciate that. Fat Boy Horror in the house.
Yes, with the 5-hound. Is that right?
Oh boy.
Yes. Travis secretly has wishes on becoming a warlord. Haha.
Sure. He doesn't.
Yeah. He's like, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Sure.
Thank you, Fat Boy. Appreciate it, man.
Nice.
Where am I at here? Where am I at? Mr. Luke.
For Luke. Yay, for the $2 super chat. Ains is the Breath of the Wild of hosts.
Hard to agree.
This is the ongoing joke
True.
is to insert Breath of the Wild wherever I am doing a show, commenting, playing, wherever it may be. They have Breath of the Wild has to be inserted there, which
totally
apparently just tells me that maybe I'm doing something mediocre, just like that game.
No, you're fantastic. I think what he's trying to tell you is that just like Breath of the Wild, you can go anywhere you want.
It seems like there's a lot there, but there's really not.
No. Just like Breath of the Wild, you can go anywhere you want, but you have to have enough stamina to put up with you, and that stamina bar grows the longer you play. You know what I mean?
I still suffer from reading that as best of the worst, so I can't.
Best of the worst.
I'll take that over Breath of the Wild. I could be the best of the worst. Let's go.
Everybody uses that reference positively.
Yeah.
When I say something's like Breath of the Wild, I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah, me too. I think that's what Luke means. Yeah,
in a roundabout way, maybe. I don't know. But thank you, sir. By the way, I'll just say Joe sucks. Want you to get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Bomber in the house.
Bomber with the $3 super chat. Still fighting the FOMO with this game. Hashtag my problem. Which game? Elden Ring?
He's talking about Elden Ring, yes.
Gotcha.
Our core group that we talk, we have a kind of a big group that talks daily. And every single one of us has done nothing but talk and play and chat about Elden Ring since it launched now. And so he not into those games, not into From games, et cetera, but he really, really is tempted. So
don't do it.
Gosh, it feels the least like a From game. I mean, Elden Ring it's a good entry point.
Yeah, it is the best entry point. We told that. Just go ahead and buy it. Come on, make it happen. And a super chat you're not going to let me bring this up? Oh, thank you.
Random name. $1.99 super chat.
Random name with $1.99 super chat with no comment. Random name. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it. If you plug that before you actually type something you wanted to ask us, just type it in the chat and I'll keep an eye out for it. Don't add another super chat, but thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Why don't we get to what we've been playing? Because news this week was really light. There was hardly any kind of big gaming news. Really the news was continued to be Elden Ring combined with Destiny 2's Raid, Gran Turismo launch. So why don't we touch on kind of all those core things? And then really our main topic today is going to be around live service games and the content delivery expectations. We finally got the update from Joseph Stoughton over at 343 Industries on Halo Infinite. And there's been a lot of feedback on that, both from the Halo community and outside of it. So I have a lot of thoughts there as well, being the Halo fanatic I am. So, but before we get to Halo and kind of live service, why don't we start with kind of what we're talking about? And Travis, I'm going to start with you if you're still awake over there, because the latest Destiny Raid has been live. It went live 10 a.m. yesterday, 10 a.m. Pacific yesterday, ran through this morning. It was apparently beaten by the world's first in 7 hours, you said.
Yep.
And why don't you tell us about that experience and what the community's thinking right now with Destiny?
Yeah, so the Destiny raids have long been considered the best part of every Destiny expansion by a lot of the hardcore fans. And they're not played by a ton of people, especially on the first day, because they're damn hard. And on the first day, they increase the difficulty artificially by capping your power 20 below the recommended power level. So you go in underpowered, you get your butt kicked. It's really hard to do DPS to bosses and clear encounters, but it's really fun because Bungie turns it into a race. And the winning team, they get the exotic weapon that the raid drops randomly. They get it as a guaranteed drop, their whole team. They get a big belt that their team gets to carry around that declares them world champs.
Is that physical?
It's a physical item. Yeah, they get physical items that they get to hang on their wall or whatever. I would just wear it over my suit every day. And I will when I get a world's first one of these days.
You change your name to Wearing the Belt Travis.
Yeah, Wearing the Belt Travis. Just get rid of the tie, and that's my new hashtag. That's my new Twitter handle. Yeah, so it's really fun. I've beaten a lot of the world first or the day one contest mode, and if you do, you get a special emblem and some other stuff for beating it the first day when it was hard. So far, I have not beaten it, and it'll be a day and 90 minutes, so I'm unlikely to make it, folks. However, this raid was a little different because it had a ton of technical issues when it launched. The first 4 or 5 hours was disconnecting from the server. Their rally flags, which are a thing that you use to get ammo at the beginning of every encounter, weren't working. So people were kind of just stalled in lobbies. There were all these problems, and people were not happy, including myself. It was a huge waste of those couple of hours of time. And it also kind of ruined the raids, the contest situation, because some teams are like competing aggressively to win where like minutes matter. The 2 teams that won, they were like 4 minutes apart. The people that beat it after 7 hours. So like these raids get really heated, and some teams were getting reset to the beginning of the raid multiple times. That happened to me once, and it happened to some streamers like 3 times where they were getting reset to the beginning of the raid and wasting like 15 minutes trying to get caught up. So that wasn't good, but once they fixed it, it's been really good so far. It's super challenging. I haven't beaten it. I'm over halfway through it, but it really tests your build, how much DPS you can do, and also how well you can play after not having a lot of sleep. So my team ended up calling it at like 5 a.m. and that was just because I had to do this show and I wanted to get at least 2 hours of sleep before crawling onto the show, which I have now gotten 2 hours of sleep and I'm feeling great. And because of all the issues that the launch had, they're actually extending the contest mode window for 48 hours instead of 24. So technically I have until Monday at 10 a.m. to try to beat it. Logistically, for my health, I think I might just wait till Monday and beat it not in contest mode, because I just spent 22 or something hours playing the raid, and I might hop into it a little bit today, but I'm kind of resigned myself to like, I missed the window. I'm not going to put aside another 24-hour period to try and beat this thing, because it doesn't feel good to spend 16 hours on the same encounter and not make any progress, not beat it, because that's just it can be demoralizing. It's fun, but it can be demoralizing. And once the 48-hour contest window is over, I'll be way better leveled and I'll be able to basically run through the encounter without any issues. So I'm looking forward to doing that run and kind of experiencing it at the normal level. But it's so much fun. It's some of the best experiences you can have. It's a large reason of why this community has existed for as long as it did. I reviewed the original vanilla Destiny and gave it a 6 out of 10. And that was the kind of consensus on the original Destiny game. But a month after the game launched, they added the first raid, Vault of Glass, and I think that changed everything. It made that game, everybody knew it was something special, and I think raids have represented something that no other game or game as a service has been able to pull off in eight years of Destiny existing. And I think that's a large part of the reason that it's lasted as long as it's lasted, and had virtually no competition in the area, at least long-term competition that didn't die after a year or two. So yeah, man, it's a ton of fun. I didn't beat it yet. I'll definitely have it beaten by Monday because I have to write my review. My review is probably going to be delayed because of the 48-hour window being changed, and the fact that that there were all those technical bugs that meant I couldn't fix it or couldn't finish it. But yeah, it's a blast. Really, really fun activity, and this one's really cool. They have some great environments, great bosses. If you're a Destiny player, I recommend giving it a try. Maybe after contest mode is over.
Does the do the environments and the enemies and stuff tie to the latest expansion, like tied to Witchgreen?
They do, but in a way I can't really talk about because it gets into spoiler territory. But let's just say it's something very interesting that fans have been waiting for a long time. That has to do with kind of the future of Destiny and less with the events in the expansion. But it does have story. It does have a cutscene once you beat it. I don't know what the cutscene is because I haven't gotten there yet. But it's very cool. And I think. Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I was reading the comments. Yeah, yeah, my brain is working at full capacity. But yeah, I love the raid. I'm very excited to finish it. Probably tomorrow.
That's awesome, man. Real quick, random name who gave us a $1.99 super chat just comment. He said, "Been listening to you all over the last year. Thank you for all the support in the game community." So, thank you for that. Appreciate that, man. All right. So I don't think Dan, Rick, any of you guys playing Destiny? I know Rick. Well, Rick, you said you did download it to play with your brother, I believe.
Yeah. So I actually asked Travis about this behind closed doors over the weekend. I said, look, I hate this business model. I've been pretty vocal about hating this business model, but my brother is a big Destiny player, got into it, and then lightly pressured me for a series of days about playing it with him.
And you told him no because you deleted my save.
Yes, in the 90s. No, I got him back because I was playing KOTOR in the room when the big reveal happened, and he was waiting to play it.
Oh,
that wasn't intentional. It's not clear that that's going to happen when it happens.
Yep.
But yeah, he's held that against me for a long time. But no, so I said, look, should I get this? And I wound up getting it. But I have to explain myself here. I'm no raid player. We were playing legendary missions a little bit yesterday. I think I died 27 times in one of the rooms. I mean, I can hold my own, which is a lie. No, I can't. I'm a drag on every team that I participate in.
But Dan's like, yeah, I identify with that. Yeah.
But we had a good time, and we eventually got through that room. At which point, I called on myself a victor, and we cut it off. Fortunately, the legendary missions now. I don't know if they always did this. I'm not versed enough in Destiny. Saves at the checkpoints, so you can exit off of a big mission and then come back where you were.
Yeah, it's great.
Which I'm told is like a raid, but I know enough. I don't even know enough to be dangerous. I don't know. It's completely inscrutable. Destiny, bless its heart. I got these little circles in the corner of my screen, and then I can revive sometimes, and I can't. And so my brother's like, well, that's a raid mechanic. You get one revived. And I was like, but I'm the one always dying. Can I give mine to you? He's like, no.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I was holding him back. I did note he went flying through that level when I left. So, I'm enjoying myself.
So you haven't gotten through the story yet? You're kind of taking your time with the hard
so here's what happens, right? I get it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to catch up to my brother. And so I'm going to play basic. I'm not a crazy person. I'm going to just go through the story. I'm going to see what it says. And then I'll go back for legendary if I want to. And we wound up at the same mission while he's going through legendary first. And he said, just come in. It's no big deal. It'll be fine.
Got it. And it was in fact a big deal.
So yeah, we're in the third mission, and there's
that's the hardest one. Oh my God. Yeah, the third mission. That's the one
things I don't know.
With the chain.
Yeah, so they got all these things happening, and I'm just Destiny. If you're not used to it, I haven't played it in more than a year. It is just I'm looking one way. There's an explosion of fire, and I'm dead. And I don't know what happened. I can't hear that somebody's hurling a magical flaming sword at me. And so that was 3 hours, and it sounds bad, but the reason I got it honestly is because my brother lives across the country. He worked on Destiny, so he feels a kinship to it. He helped design the Scorn, which are back in a big way in this expansion. And he was very excited about it. And to some extent, family matters more than business models, matters more than all this other stuff. And so I gave Bungie their blood money, and I'm enjoying the product. It's just that I don't like their business model. So it's nice to get the chance to play with my brother and hear him talk about design and whatnot, all while I'm screaming at him that I don't understand what's happening. And a giant flaming guy that has random moths pop out of him and orbs that you have to get in and crush. I don't fully understand. So I'm seasoned in the wrong way for Destiny, but I'll catch back up. You ask me again in a couple weeks. I'll get back on it.
We'll do a tracker of your progress over the coming shows.
Yeah, we're gonna get through this because anytime you can add a psychotic giant ghost moth lady, you go and do it. And so that's been interesting. There's more characterization and little things. The throne world is very, very cool. It's a very cool environment.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to get to it sometime in the future. I'm just too tied up with other games right now. One of which
so many games means Elden Ring.
I do mean just Elden Ring.
Game. Just one game, really.
And when did Elden Ring come out? Last Thursday officially, right? And then 10. So it's about 3 weeks I've had Elden Ring, and I legitimately have not played another game. Not one.
Haven't even logged on to Halo.
No, that's not true. I lied. No, I haven't logged on to Halo in 3 weeks. Not lying. What I did play the other day is Gran Turismo 7, which I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
So Gran Turismo 7 is out, came out Friday. I've said before, obviously, big car guy, big kind of racing person, and was really looking forward to this game. So I do have a couple of hours in it, and then I went back to Elden Ring. But I did finish my license test. I did get through the first several. They have this like GT Cafe things, and so Rick, you and I were joking about through DM about this. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts. But I'm about, I would say 2.5 to 3 hours in.
I think I'm 5 to 7.
Okay, so you may be a little further than me. The thing I find kind of strange is that playing through this game so far, it is almost to a T what Gran Turismo was at the beginning of its franchise. And what I mean by that is it's very handholdy, and it really spends a lot of time introducing you to just the concept of the automobile, and how to do
loves cars. He loves cars.
He does. And how to do the very basic things in automobiles.
Right.
And that, I think, it's an interesting approach that I don't think is necessarily bad because it's 25 years old now. They haven't had a full Gran Turismo entry in several years, a proper one, what I would say. And so the whole, introduction to cars, introduction to drivetrain types and handling and braking and all that can be good for a lot of players. But I don't like that you're forced to do it.
Sure.
I've raced in real life. I've played all these games countless times. The fact that I had to spend 3 hours at one point, this is not a joke, by the way, at one point being told what a compact Japanese car is while staring at a Honda Fit doesn't do it for me. Okay. That's not why I buy racing games.
Gran Turismo is its own beast. I mean, I'm going to talk about this because it isn't like any other racing games. That's certainly true.
Yeah. So it's not that I'm opposed to that. And so far the racing itself, especially racing in the rain, feels really good. The haptics are really awesome. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm really enjoying the core racing part of it. And I'm excited to get deeper into that as I can pull myself away from Elden Ring by June, apparently. But I am a little kind of annoyed so far at how long it's taking me just to get to the meat of the game itself.
Right, and you're underselling it, right? I mean, they're holding back tracks the whole time. I mean, you have to go through to earn the 30 tracks that are in the main mode and everything else. So here's what I think. This is my favorite Gran Turismo in a long, long time. And I think that you're exactly right, that it harkens back to me mostly Gran Turismo 2. Like one, they were trying to feel out how to make this game, and then 2 is where they found their rhythm, in my opinion. So we're back in 1999. And I think behind closed doors, this easily could have been called just Gran Turismo, like God of War style. It feels like they're rebooting the concept, like they're going back to everything that was basic about the game. I love that because I personally, subjectively, fell out with Gran Turismo at some point between 2 and now. And, I played A-Spec and I definitely didn't play Sport. And so I got in there and I bought it because it seemed cool, but I wasn't quite sure. I have Horizon that I love to death. And there couldn't be 2 more different games while driving cars. And you get in there, they make you do a music track thing, and then they hit you with a 9-minute introduction video, which I swear to God, hand over heart, is like the history of the car as interposed with what's happening in the world during the various decades they walk you through. And this is all done without narration. But yeah, so if you imagine you're in the 50s, it'll be like how cars are designed in the 50s, and then a 50s car ad, and then Elvis. And then the 60s will be the same kind of thing with like then a frame of the Beatles and then the moon landing. All throughout, like from whatever 1900 to 2020.
He's not lying.
And
that sounds awful for game design, and I really want to watch that video.
It's 8 minutes long. I think it's on their YouTube channel. But you watch this thing and it feels like, oh, this is like the introduction to like a really good RPG, like an alternate history RPG. And then it goes into the trailer, but it puts you in the right mindset because this thing is very serious about how much you should love cars. You can go to the brand management station. You can go and you can look at the brands, any of the brands that they've got, and they'll have a museum of how that brand came to be. Again, as you can compare to what was happening in the world at that time. Then you can get a detailed description of any given car. And then you can hit a bubble that has another person pretending to be standing there next to you, telling you why you should care about this car. And I was talking with my daughter about this. I was showing it to her. I said, just before we watch this intro, just understand this team, this company, this man wants you to really, really, really love cars. Like this is an ode to cars. And what I love about Gran Turismo is what I love about anything where somebody's passionate about something. You can feel how much this company loves cars in every instance of this game.
Yep.
And
sure,
that's fantastic. If you can find somebody that loves something in anything, it's great to have that conversation with them. And in my opinion, it feels like you're having that conversation throughout playing Gran Turismo. And it makes me like cars much more than I do. Like it's not a big deal to me. But you hear all these various things and you go, oh, I guess this was an interesting way to put an engine together. Okay, fantastic. And yeah, a lot of it's light. And I agree with you entirely that it is, they've got you in this pipeline. They are not opening up anything to you if you're not using that cafe system.
Yep.
And I can certainly understand why that would be frustrating. There are games that do that kind of thing that actually have like an exit ramp button. I'm thinking of like visual novels and things that are otherwise very slow to open up that actually have a hit this backdoor button and you don't need all this extra stuff from us. Maybe it needs that kind of thing for a player like you. You'd say, hey, I've done all this. Just open it up and give me a tutorial screen. But I think it is so all-encompassing that I think it was wise the way they did it to not overwhelm. And I think that might not be for you, Ains, and it might not be for me having played Gran Turismo, for decades, but I liked it. I liked being guided through these cars. Now pay attention to these, and then we're going to open up championships or rounds that have actual limitations. So you can go in and say, hey, you got to tweak these things. But everything in this game to me has been streamlined and made available to me in a way that I haven't been able to enjoy in car games before. That they have a single screen, which is actually 4 screens, that allows you to spec out your cars in all the different ways that you've bought parts for it. That's very easy. It uses all these little toggles on the menu. And when you get to a tournament entry that says, hey, you can max out at 550 pp, you can tweak all these various things on the fly. And that was fun for me in a way that it has never been fun for me in a Gran Turismo game. And then you put that on top of a game where, in all honesty, I think you said the core of it, it feels great. It feels amazing to play. It is completely different from, I think, both Horizon and Forza in how it feels, the weightiness it gives, the emphasis on road cars and things of that nature. And I'm having so much more fun with Gran Turismo 7 than I thought I would have when I hit that buy button on Thursday night. So I couldn't be more enthused about it. And I was not there at all when I bought it. I was like, yeah, I could just go play Horizon. I own Horizon. But let's give this a shot. I haven't played a Gran Turismo. I haven't bought a new Gran Turismo in at least a couple of iterations. And if you're at all interested in it, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. But understand that what Aiden says is right. They're going to hold your hand. They're going to guide you through. They're going to open up one track for you, and then you have to collect 3 more cars. And they're going to talk to you about how their photo system works. And then they're going to open up the multiplayer bank. And you have to go through all of this before you actually get to any of those things.
Yeah. It's an intricately designed game. To your point, from someone who is renowned in the industry. I forget how you pronounce his last name now. Yamachi, I think. But he is just known for being overly detailed. And this game is the shining example of that. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just understand what you're getting into. But like I said, it is still intriguing. It's got me, I'm going to put a lot of time into this game. And I think once it does really kind of open up for me, it's going to be fantastic. But it is very different. We joked about Forza Horizon 5, or not joked about it, but when you start Forza Horizon 5, the first thing you do is go into this crazy intro sequence, racing out of an airplane. And, it's like balls to the wall type. Here, you're in our world now, and it's you do what you want to do. And this is this could not be more polar opposite. It is very just entry level. Here's the basics you need to know, step by step introduction into every type of car, how they work, and what you should be doing in them to achieve optimal lap times, which is cool in the aspect of, to your point, people who aren't car people who haven't raced, who haven't done that stuff in real life. It is a cool way for them to understand the intricacies and the detail that goes into cars and racing. So I've always loved that about Gran Turismo. So
it's made me appreciate something more, which is frankly, out of those kinds of games, what I'm looking for. So that is the best kind of outcome for me.
Sweet. Good. Let me get these super chats real quick. We're about 10 minutes behind on them. Apologies. You're on mute, Dan.
Yep, I knew it. I was just testing you. Cal with a $5 super chat. I concur. Hogue, most gaming for me is social with friends and my brothers besides the indies I play.
Yeah.
My brother knew once he asked the question I was going to fold. It was just a matter of days.
Nice.
And then Travis just helped me. That's all. I was like, Travis, tell me it's okay to buy it.
Hey, I told you I would not have normally endorsed it in the past, but Witch Queen's real good. So,
Tal, thank you so much. Pampa in the house, $10 super chat.
$10 super chat. GT cares about his family, and nothing is more important than family. Insert Travis Fast and Furious talk.
Fast and Furious is God's gift to the world, and Jason Momoa is going to be joining in the
Damn it, Pampa! I'll give you $10 back, but I gotta listen to this.
Jason Momoa is joining the Fast and Furious, is he?
Yes, yeah.
As Aquaman, it's just going to go full superhero.
No,
it's a crossover.
Definitely not. But I would be surprised. I would be surprised if there wasn't a reference to Aquaman, or maybe the Khaleesi Game of Thrones thing. I don't know. We'll see.
See, I consider his entire presence in Dune as an Aquaman joke, right? Because where would Aquaman be weakest? Arrakis.
The desert. Yeah, sure, of course.
And we got another super chat from Eric as well.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's a 279 Canadian. Which queen? I can't even talk. Which queen rules? Star Scourge Radon rules? I don't even know what the heck that means.
Does Destiny use the phrase Star Scourge, or is that a Final Fantasy 15?
That's Elden Ring.
Oh, well, so
No
okay.
idea.
So the first time I heard Star Scourge, it was Final Fantasy 15.
I thought it was a Transformer.
That's Starscream.
Yeah, I'm way off.
Brother, Star Scourge. Thank you guys for this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, those are fun.
That's Gran Turismo. Dan, you playing anything interesting? You've been quiet through the Destiny talk and the Gran Turismo talk. Anything good?
I have nothing. I finished Horizon.
Okay, how was that?
It was good. It was fun. It was like it's a lot deeper than I thought it would be. Like with the builds and stuff. At the end, I was playing on normal difficulty. I could one or two shot like the big thunder jaws. You know, I basically would freeze them and then throw a spear at them and they would die. I mean, I had it to that point where I had built with the armors and the mods and all that stuff where it was just disgusting. And that's great. And there's several different ways you can do it. The traps, I think, which I would never normally use, are highly underrated and disgustingly OP. And it's a fun game. The story, it's a little out there. I'm one trophy away from the plat, and I refuse to get it because it's that stupid strike game that you can sit down. I didn't even know it existed for half of the game. Apparently, there's a mini game.
You take this back, Dan. You've said some stuff on this stream, but you take Machine Strike.
Machine Strike. I didn't even know it existed. I had no idea until like I accidentally. Like I looked at an icon. I was like, "What is this icon? I gotta go check this out."
Yeah, it's like a square. It's a terrible icon.
Yeah, and it's a little thing that you sit down with little mini figures of whatever the machines are, and you can fight against each other. You only have to win two.
Imagine a chessboard. It's like a chessboard.
Yeah, and it's got like different levels, like or different terrains, and each thing. Like I don't have time to learn all that. I guess I could go in and like just defeat two people. That would probably be pretty easy.
Machine Strike is fun.
Yeah, no.
But I wanted to comment on you saying the story was out there because Horizon is the secret Mass Effect sequel that you never knew you wanted. Horizon Forbidden West goes absolutely crazy with its lore. And I'm all in for it, but it's going to turn some people off because it is wacky.
100% it will. Yeah, I mean, it's gone. Yeah, I mean, it went from like.
Haynes, are you saying something?
No,
Now you're
and I've heard a lot of people say the story in Horizon didn't land well with them. Forbidden West, that is.
Forbidden West. I'm enjoying the story in Horizon Forbidden West much more than Zero Dawn, but it is.
I am too.
It is out there.
But yeah, I mean, they took some leaps, and I was just like, what is going like all the stuff in like Zero Dawn, and I think I can talk about this stuff because it's been out there for a while. But like all the holographic, messaging and all those kind of things, and explaining what happened to the Earth before, everything happened. That was really awesome, and I love that kind of stuff, because it was kind of interactive. This one's a little bit more interactive. I wish, you could go in her Zero Dawn and scan the little things, and they would bring like an audio log up, right?
Yeah.
And you would listen to, and that was cool. This one's a lot less audio loggy and more texty, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I would rather have somebody just tell me and not have me have to read it. So, but there's a lot of
they love their lore. Their character descriptions are almost Codex-esque. I'm telling you, this is a Mass Effect sequel in all but name. They do so much stuff from that series.
It's real. I enjoyed it. I really did. And like I said, I got tons of stuff. I mean, this comes a point to where I'm afraid it's going to be one of those games where like there's no new game plus like Zero Dawn had, which I understand because it would be insane.
I think that was a patch add-on. I think that was a patch add-on to Zero Dawn.
There is not a new game plus?
No, there's not. I mean, there's certain things that this is my biggest problem with the game is the pacing that you unlock things, and to where like there's stuff in the beginning of the map where I can't access it till almost the end of the game, the main story. So the way I played it was I went through, I did as much, I got every single side mission done. I did every single errand. I did every single arena event and melee pit and all that other stuff. Also, melee combat, somehow better and way worse than the first one. Not sure how they pulled that off, but the combos that you have to pull off in some of those melee pits, it's like, yeah, press R1 3 times, pause, press R1 again, then hold down R2, then do that. I'm like, what in the hell? It took me.
It's a fighting game.
Yeah, no, it's dial-up combo. It is.
Yep. Oh, it's so bad.
Okay, it's like that. Okay, I didn't know.
It's not great, and eventually I got through all those things, and I don't know, man. Like I'm so like right in the middle on it. Like I love that it was Horizon, and I love the characters. I think there's some underused characters for sure. I think they could have done a better job incorporating those characters, because it kind of starts off like I'm this loner Aloy, and I figured, oh, this would be a lesson in bringing leaning on people and having your friends help you out and stuff like that, and it really kind of washes that away about half through the game, and you're just like, like she's so self-important to herself, like, and I thought it would be like a really
only one who can save the world.
Yeah,
she has a lot of quotes that are "I'm the only one." Yeah,
and it's just no, listen, you got all these other people, and then it's very, I don't know.
So it's in your face rather than being contextual.
Yeah, it's not like you can see where it's going, right? And you're just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Then all of a sudden you can't see anything, and you're like, what the hell is happening here, Gorilla? What are you doing? This is insane. And
I actually said that.
Yeah, by the time you get to the end, you're just like, I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what happened in the last like 6-7 missions of the game.
Oh, I'm not there yet.
So I've got the robotic shark.
There's a point where it just goes even farther, man.
You can tell that they're readying the roller coaster. I will say I was not expecting where I'm at. I'm 35 hours in, 40 hours in to Horizon Forbidden West. And I was not expecting that they were going to go quite as, let's just say, sci-fi fantasy as they wound up doing. Obviously, World of Robot Dinosaurs and things, but there's a certain level that Zero Dawn was hitting of like, here's how this could actually happen. And Forbidden West is like, nah, bro, get ready.
Yeah,
nice.
It really does.
I always thought that they were that, so makes sense.
Yeah, and that's where they go to, and that's absolutely where they go to. But Horizon Forbidden West will be in my top 5, I think, barring a catastrophic failure at the end of the day, because it's just
better games.
so yeah. Hey, you know what? That's
really
an all right reason as well. But yeah, now I'm interested in getting the last 6 or 7 missions down.
I'm very anxious to play it. I just
I love it. I love it to death.
But
I did too.
The way you guys describe it, the way you guys described it last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about it, it sounds so polar opposite to Elden Ring. It's going to be a very weird transition.
It is
for
it's
me.
Extremely polar opposite in terms of.
I will tell you this: after playing
nerf
Elden Ring for 25 hours or whatever, I went back to play some Horizon, and I think I said this to Travis. It felt like I pulled the weights off of the batting practice, because even what was hard in Horizon after kind of tuning your craft at Elden Ring for a while, it's like, oh, this game isn't hard. We can roll.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah, what I learned by playing Horizon,
trained in 10 times gravity. Now he's ready to fight.
You need those, those very specific combos like I was talking about. I cannot hit them, and I don't know if it's the game's fault or it's my fault. It's probably a combination of both. But like, I know just playing that and how like somebody like you guys would come over and be like, oh yeah, this is easy. I just finished it.
They're not great, Dan. They're not great with their timing anyway.
Oh.
It's not. They're not. Melee is not why you go to the party at Horizon.
There was one. There's a melee pit where you go basically in. Each one has like a guy that you have to defeat, but there's 3 little things before that, challenges that you have to pull off, and it's just doing certain combos. You get like 2 minutes to do it. Sounds super simple. I was on one for almost an hour, one part of the challenge, because I could not figure out. I ended up looking it up, that there is it doesn't tell you this. Well, you press R1 3 times, like, you're hit, and then you wait, the pause, there is a little glimmer at the end of your spear that you have to hit the next R1 when that hit, like a very specific, there was no reference to this during the, telling you how to do it.
Are they like time events? I'm not understanding what you guys are
talking about fighting mechanics.
There's not a quick time event.
It sound like
not quick time. No. It's the R1 is your basic hit, like your light attack. It's light attack, pause is what it says on the screen. Light attack. And and then your spear goes ding or something like that. I had no idea.
Pretty common in like beat 'em up games though.
Yeah, so. Okay. Right, it's like a timing combo.
Stuff that I don't ever play.
You've played Sifu. You'll be fine.
No, you guys will be great at it. You guys are gonna be like, what is Dan talking about?
But what they would say, if Ains had played this, he would say, well, the timing is a little erratic there. The windows aren't clear. You're getting hit while you do it. It's not Sifu. It's not where they make their bread.
Okay.
It's not great.
But it's still better than the first melee, the first one's melee combat.
Yeah, it has more thought behind it. Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah.
I'm glad you're making it through the game. I will say, when I beat Horizon Forbidden West, if the final line of the game isn't this, I'll be very disappointed. I hope it ends with Aloy saying, "Already saved the world. Guess I'll add this one to my stash." That's what I hope it ends.
I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you really nailed it there, Trevor.
Yes.
Didn't they update it this week? It actually said that
they did. They removed some of that. They heard me complaining on this show,
Hilarious.
And they removed some of the.
That's the reach that 10,000 subscribers can get
10,000
you.
subscribers.
20,000, they'll hear us even better. So
there it is. Fat Boy Horror, Half Moon Slash. It's a nightmare. It is 100% a nightmare. That is the worst. But then you have the key to that whole combo was the things that came after it that you had to do. Like that, I finally got down. The things you do after it, they say, okay, press this button. It's a nightmare. I'm just going to say it's a nightmare because you cannot, they tie them together, but they don't tell you that they tie them together. Like your last R1, your last light attack is actually tied to the other one
combo for so long. I'm
just telling you, man, this combo.
This is the experience he had with the melee pits, and Machine Strike wasn't good enough for him. Can you believe this?
Bored the hell out of me. I was just like, what in the hell is this? This is terrible. But
what's going on?
Was this on the run of show? We talk about the R1 attack combo for
R1 attack combos. Half Moon Slash. Thank you, Fat Boy Horror.
Speaking of strategy games, a fantastic one came out this week.
Before you do that, let me get these super chats. I've been holding them. One second. We got Cerebral Paul with 2 back-to-back super chats related to Dan. So
Perfect. $5 super chat. Dan, getting done early today. Starscream. Oh, I mean, I know Starscream. I thought maybe he was like another Transformer. You know,
That's the joke. These are the bits from the Bitcast.
I missed Dan last week, but it saved me $5. But I do. Speaking of which, I saw you on NLG, Paul. I did. I watched the show with you on there. It was a good show. Talked about accessibility and an Elden Ring.
Yeah,
it's a good show, man.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much. All right. Triangle strategy. That's what
Triangle strategy.
I wanted to mention. Get to it, Rick.
Triangle strategy is the latest from the Octopath Traveler team. You probably would recognize any of these games by just the way they look. And it is, originally I thought it was an ode to Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's very clearly not. So Final Fantasy Tactics has a number of things going on with it, including most prominently a job system that you're constantly bringing in randoms and doing various things with the jobs that you get and upgrading there. This is not that. This is a lot closer to something. I'm going to, use things that maybe people haven't thought about in a long time or maybe have never heard of. It's a lot closer to an ogre battle tactics kind of feel. And in that, or if you prefer the Sega side of things, maybe a Shining Force that is much more linear, and you've got the people that are doing the specific things. But in that, it is going with the kind of Ivalice Final Fantasy Tactics, political intrigue kind of story. Now, I'm 8.5 hours in, and when I tell you that this game is a slow burn, you are not thinking about it slowly enough. Okay, so it's 8.5 hours in. We've basically had the conflict start, give or take.
Wow. Smoldering.
At this point in the game, because they spend a lot of time telling you about these three kingdoms, triangle strategy, not very lyrical, but very specific, and talking to you about the various people that are in them and giving you a feel for what it is that they do, how they might conflict with you in the future, teaching you about your own team, et cetera, et cetera. And the tactics portion of the game is very, very effective. It is, however, very streamlined. So it isn't like you have to think about things quite as hard as you had to back in those Final Fantasy Tactics days, maybe even three houses, depending on where you come into the tactics strategy conversation. But what it does have is very, very strong narration and very, very strong world building. So there was a game, I think it was a couple of years ago, it might have been last year, the years blend together at this point, called 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. You guys hear of this at all?
Yeah, I've heard of that game. I never played it, but I remember it.
So 13 Sentinels was a game that had a strategy component, and then it had story components. The story components were probably 90% of the game. And for the most part, they were like a visual novel. The best way to think about triangle strategy is that you've got a kind of Game of Thrones, Ivalice, Final Fantasy Tactics, visual novel that it's a great time to eat a piece of pizza with or otherwise enjoy yourself and watch. And then occasionally you're going to be battling these things. And so the actual ratios here are maybe not going to be to everybody's liking. I would say that at best they're 50-50, but in all reality, it's probably 70% storytelling against 30% tactical fighting. And that might change as the game goes on as they get all of their foundation laid. But it is a great team of people that you meet. It's a great team of people that you've got on the other sides of these various things. And its big trick, ostensibly, is that you're going to have choices in the game. They're going to switch you off into various side paths, various endings, and actually influence the way the story is told in a significant way. I will tell you, 8.5 hours in, chapter 6, we had one choice. It clearly isn't significant in terms of the overall plot. It has a map that shows you the various choices, and you can see it branch down to what you picked and then back up to the main line, which, you could have gone the other direction. But if it actually fulfills all those, the battles are fun. They are, like I said, they're streamlined, so they're pretty quick in terms of your thought process. They're not pretty quick in terms of how they're actually played. But it's got great music. It's got great graphics. It's got great characters. It's got great world building. And I'm still seemingly eons away from being able to tell you if it's a good plot and story. But for right now, 8.5 hours, probably up to 10. It's setting up the pieces, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. But I will tell you from experience, having played a lot of games with my daughters, as you've heard me say in this space, it's the one game right now where I say, I'm going to play Triangle. And they say, okay, we're out. We're going to go find something else. So you got to know what you're getting into going in. I'll report on it later, but the first 8 hours is effectively the prologue.
Okay. So Nick's in the chat is playing it. He said he's enjoying it. He's on chapter 3. It feels like a nice build-up of what's possible to come further you go.
Yep.
This is on the Switch.
Yes.
Only.
Yes, and it'll be everywhere. I mean, they moved Octopath
Eventually.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll wait on that one.
Yeah, it was what I was definitely interested in, and I want to try. This is making me a little less interested, if I'm being honest, but I'm still interested.
It depends on how much you get into the world building. It is very good.
I'm into visual novels, so I want to.
It's got that feel to it. It does. Cool. You hit the right trigger button to have it, so you don't have to click through. And literally, I had my whole lunch yesterday during a scene. I mean, like that was
nice. I'm trying to get Ains bit by visual novels. I don't think he has a ton of experience with it, but I'm trying to start with Ace Attorney because I feel like that's a good gateway drug. I'll get him to play.
Well, Ace Attorney's a game. I mean, like if you really want to take it into the visual novel arena, Ace Attorney is a game as compared to what you can really do in that genre.
I mean, if you're talking about the ones where you literally do nothing except for read, because I would say those are kind of a subgenre of visual novels, but like because Danganronpa is a visual novel, right? But that's also a game.
I wouldn't say Danganronpa is. I would say it's an escape room game with very long narrative elements.
I can't get behind that definition. I think you're
let's take like House of Fata Morgana, right? Which I really enjoy. Is literally hit the button, sit back, and watch and read.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that all visual novels have to be only reading.
No, I'm not saying that they all do, but I think that then if you're talking about subgenres, you got them in the wrong order. Visual novel is reading, heavy narrative, picture book stuff mostly, and then if you want to strap a game on it, that's a subgenre of the visual novel. I think Ace Attorney is a kind of visual novel, but it has a lot more game elements and logic elements than just sitting back and reading. So, if you're playing Steins Gate or House of Fata Morgana, you have to know going in that you're not going to be doing a whole lot.
Steins Gate has game in it though. I've played that one. You've got to solve stuff.
Yeah.
Let me just say, neither of you are selling me.
That's the thing. That's the thing, Ains, is like, do you like reading is the question I'm asking you.
Well, when you put in that much time and volume, you can tell some of the best stories in gaming as stories.
Sure.
But yeah, you don't know going in. I mean, you have to a visual novel that is poorly written or has a bad story is like probably the maximal waste of time that you can actually engage in. So it's a tricky proposition.
Yeah, Elizabeth Young in the chat says, and good morning, Elizabeth, if you're a new viewer. She says the vast majority of visual novels are reading and making choices.
Yeah, there you go. They're like choose your own adventure books.
Yeah, which is cool. I can get behind that.
Which is cool. Yeah, if you can get behind that. But some of them take away the choice. Some of them you straight up don't make any decisions and you just straight up read. Like you just click a button or you click the auto play button and it scrolls text.
Yeah, you get that timing right and you just sit back.
Some people question if those are even video games, and that's like a whole you could really dive in deep on this one because I talked to a lot of people about visual novels. But I actually really appreciate the genre when it's done well. And for me, I think there needs to be some game element because I want to feel like I earned the next chapter rather than sort of waited for it. I don't tend to enjoy the ones that are I'll just read a book, right? Books do that better. I don't think there's a lot of games that tell the best stories.
And there's some standouts though, right? Like, one of my favorite story experiences in games ever was 999, which was a DS game, which was the start of the Nonary Games series. I think I got that all right. And that's another escape room game. Danganronpa is like similar to it. And Danganronpa's got the Ace Attorney kind of feel to it in various parts too.
They reference Ace Attorney in that game too.
What can you do? Yeah, yep. I had a little trouble getting past the Space Bear, but playing
it's not that good. I think that's overhyped. The Danganronpa series.
Well, I love the Nonary games, which are. In 999, they took the nature of a visual novel and the game that you're playing and the system that you're playing it on, and they interacted with it in a way that only that kind of scenario could do. So it's not just a book; it is something different, and that's been my favorite experience with them at all.
Yeah.
But getting on a tangent, Triangle Strategy.
Further, you mean?
Triangle Strategy. I guess I'm taking us back. We're tangenting back, much like the map of choices in Triangle Strategy. We're going back to the main plot line, and it has very long scenes of just like getting cutscenes given to you. Then it also has exploration scenes where you're just talking around the world building and talking around villages, and then it has the actual strategy. So it's going to depend on how much you are willing to just have them just immerse themselves in the world that they're giving you. And I can tell you the world building's good. I can't tell you that the story is going to be great at the end of the day. So much of what makes Final Fantasy Tactics special is that its story is, at the end of the day, fantastic and goes places that you would never, ever expect when you start up that game. So I don't know.
Fair enough. Pampa says for easy mode, I think the genre is right up Dan's alley.
I would be crying in about an hour.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as a big reader, and also his eyes don't work. So,
well, almost all of Triangle Strategy is voice acted, with the exception of the exploration games. It is all voice acted, and you just
that's actually pretty cool because a lot of those games in that vein are not. So that's actually
it's a lot of voice acting. It's just like Octopath Traveler in that regard, insofar as you have a lot of voice acting. It's always struck me as unusual in a way that I really like, especially with Octopath, but also with Triangle Strategy, which is the little Final Fantasy VI characters speaking. The little voices. It's
human
crazy.
voices. Yeah, it's crazy.
Does it have Japanese dub or is it all English spoken?
I honestly can't tell you that I checked. I believe I read in a review that it did, but I don't want to commit to that because I didn't look for it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Well, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one I want to check out. I just this time right now, like I said, Elden Ring is taken over my life and seemingly many others way more than I think anyone ever would have imagined. And then I've still got to play Horizon, which is apparently a huge game, right? I'm playing Gran Turismo. Yeah, so there's just way too much. I've got
to play Destiny eventually.
Got to do Destiny eventually. I've got codes for other games to review that have released that I haven't touched. There's an awful lot right now. So one quick question, another super chat from Gecko Gamer here.
Yeah, would 13 Sentinels be a good showcase of the visual novels for the €5 super chat?
So 13 Sentinels is absolutely gorgeous. And it tells one of my favorite stories of the year it came out, which I can't identify because that's the kind of year it's been. But it is one of my favorites. It is absolutely a fantastic game. It's a great showcase for what the genre can do. And it's not a visual novel. It has the feel of a visual novel, but you're actually walking your character around scenes and you're deciding where to go in order to advance the story. Those are all kind of deterministic. So figuring out where to go is going to trigger the next scene, which is why I put it in the visual novel category. But it has a little bit more interactivity than that. And certainly the strategy element is just a video game. I mean, it's essentially like a missile command against robots that are invading Tokyo, or are they? And so there's a lot going on in 13 Sentinels. I would say that it probably has 24 twists. And the real beauty of it is, like Octopath Traveler, it has the 13 characters telling their 13 stories simultaneously. And the way it's presented is you get to various places in the character story and you'll get a twist. And then you'll get to the next character and they'll twist on that twist. And so if you like kind of feeling like an Outer Limits or a Twilight Zone, while you play these things, it is absolutely brilliantly done. And I can pretty much guarantee you have no idea where it's going or where it will end.
What platforms is that on?
I think it's on everything. I played it on the PlayStation. I believe it's coming to Switch this spring, and then I think it's everywhere else.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a great one. I think it was on my top 10 list for I think 2020. I'm non-committal about these things.
2 years. Jesus. Yeah. Gecko, thank you for the super chats today. Really appreciate it. So hopefully that gives you some context. Sweet. All right, guys, why don't we talk about kind of what we had as our main topic. We've been talking about currently playing for a while, but really about the challenge of live service delivery. And I wanted to talk about that this week because we received the roadmap or roadmap light of where Halo Infinite is going from Joseph Staten. Now, this was originally supposed to be given to fans a few weeks ago. They delayed it, said, let us get things in order. And it came out yesterday. So we can kind of talk about Halo, but I also want to talk about then transition to a larger conversation of the challenges of live service delivery, because obviously Destiny is a prime example here over the 8 years that it's been out now. We've got games like Apex Legends that, have done well in some areas, struggled in others. Fortnite's a great example, but let me talk through what Halo what 343 put forth yesterday about Halo Infinite. So if you weren't already aware, Halo Infinite's original season was supposed to be 3 months, and it was supposed to original plan was to launch with campaign co-op, and we've had that conversation around campaign co-op being delayed, Forge being delayed, and then they extended the first season to 6 months rather than 3. So they were already kind of behind the 8 ball of what their original plan was. So they came out yesterday and said, okay, here's our update. They've got a new small event coming next week called Tactical Ops. These are those kind of free 10-level battle passes with new armor and stuff. Very light, additions, but still cool. Season 2 is going to start on May 3rd as planned. It's titled Lone Wolves. I think this sounds actually really cool because one of the things they're doing in Halo Infinite is tying actual real characters into the multiplayer lore, which I think is quite neat if you're a Halo fan. So they have a couple new Spartans they introduced yesterday. They said as you dive into Season 2 story, a mix of cinematics, story-themed events, battle pass items, and more will embody the Lone Wolves theme. So that's coming May 3rd. There will be playlist updates, new modes, free events, and a couple new maps.
Dope.
So that's awesome, right? That's good. Now they didn't. The way it's worded is weird. So they showed one new arena map and they showed one new big team map. And one of the questions right away that me and many other Halo fans asked was, okay, is first of all, Season 2 3 months or 6 months? They didn't say. And second of all, are these the only 2 maps, or are these 2 of the maps that are coming? We don't know. If it's the only 2 maps, I think that's kind of a problem. If it's 2 of more, we'll see. They then came out and said that here's where things went a little haywire with the hardcore community. So Forge is currently being tested, which is good. It's out there. Some people who are kind of close to 343 and do Forge heavily are already experimenting with it. But they said it's coming now with Season 3 with no date. So again, we don't know when Season 3 starts right now. And that automatically means that we're not seeing Forge until late this year, if late this year, right?
Yeah.
So it's a long ways out. Then they also then said that campaign co-op, which is something a lot of people have been waiting for, that was supposed to launch with Season 2, is not going to launch with Season 2. That it will come with Season 2 at some point during that time frame, but it's not launching on May 3rd. And so this is kind of a mixed bag, right? The multiplayer updates sound cool. New modes, events, armors, all that's good stuff. But obviously they're kind of behind the curve with their internal development for key additions or modes to this game. And it feels like, to many people that this is a team that was stretched to the very limit to get this game out in December. And now they're playing catch up, right? They kind of had their break. One thing Joseph Staten said at the start of this update was that they've been a little slower here at the beginning to get the team in a good cadence, to get them in a good health and mindset so they can go faster in the future. And that's probably 100% true. And it's probably a positive thing, I would assume, but that doesn't do much for the fans and for the promises they made prior, right? And so I wanted to get from you guys. I know, obviously, Travis, big Halo fan as well. I think it's fair to say no one has as much time as I do in this game. My amount played of Halo Infinite already is like near 300 hours since launch. I mean, it's absurd.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've played a ton of this. And so I was kind of mixed on this personally. I was, okay, there's some good things here, but you're not really kind of, you're not gaining confidence or adding confidence in your ability to consistently deliver content at what would be considered a proper cadence for a live game. And so I think that's causing a lot of concern in the community right now.
Yeah. So my perspective is a little different here because while you do have more hours in Halo Infinite than I do, I certainly have more hours than this entire panel put together when it comes to games as a service game. Sure. I mean, that's been the majority of my coverage for IGN and the people that I know. It's all games as a service stuff, right? And so these problems that they're talking about are I don't think an actual problem, and B, are incredibly mild considering what is the status quo for games as a service, especially new ones. So just giving a little context there, every single game as a service that has ever launched has had an extremely long gap between the first vanilla release and when they actually come out with new content. with very few exceptions. And the people who do rush out content early, their content isn't good because it's half baked. It like clearly they were just trying to like keep the ball rolling, and it just ends up disappointing. Destiny did that with vanilla, and lately the solution to that problem in the games as a service industry has been, okay, let's just do longer gaps and let our community kind of exist in waves, right? And so you have this roller coaster where there's lows where people are just kind of like not really playing your game, and then there's highs where lots of people are playing it. And Destiny is a great example of that. Destiny had, I think, 60,000 concurrent players the week before Witch Queen came out. It was very low, and that wasn't atypical. I mean, it was like that for like 3 or 4 months in this game. And then the Witch Queen came out. They had 1 million pre-orders, and now their concurrent players are like 800,000. And so this doesn't, people, the dialogue online has been really annoying to me because people are looking at Halo and going, oh, this game launched half baked. I saw Neo post this, which I wanted to tweet at him. And I wanted to tweet at him and get into a big fight about this because he's super wrong about this issue. He very much was showing that he doesn't know games as a service at all. And I was just like, all right, cool. Well, that, like, there you go. Right. So sorry, that was Neo. Neo was saying this. And it's just like, this doesn't mean the game is dead or that it was launched half baked. It just means that they knew what type of game they were making. You don't wait until your entire game is there and launch it. It's impractical, and it means your game will never come out. You get as much as you can out there, and then you set the expectation with the community that it will live long beyond its launch date, and then you give that content whenever you can. But it's okay if not everyone is playing Halo Infinite every day of the week. That's not normal for games as a service, and you shouldn't expect it. No team can create that type of content on a weekly cadence. It just doesn't happen. Even the best games as a service, it doesn't happen. So, I mean, Fortnite had one map for like 1.5 years, 2 years, right? Like this is just the way it works. And so I think people are being a little quick to jump the gun, and especially people who don't play games as a service and they think of Halo as just like Halo 4, Halo 5, it's the next in the series, and it just isn't that. They're stepping into a different genre, and this genre operates differently, and it's okay if they take time to release this content. That's sort of what you sign up for when you get a game as a service, for better or for worse. And if you don't like that, then maybe games as a service aren't for you. But that they made it very clear that that's what they're building with Halo Infinite. So I think this is blown out of proportion, and Halo is going to be fine. They're going to release content, and everybody's going to play it, and they're going to be talking about it for a little while. And then guess what? It'll die again while they go and build new stuff. This is just how it works.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of good comments already, and I will absolutely, please put your comments in. I absolutely will read them out and kind of give perspectives here. I know Rick is chomping at the bit right now, and I know you commented on Twitter as well about about Halo Infinite's update. So please, what are your thoughts, Rick?
Well, I think Mr. Travis is using games as a service or live service games or what have you as a bit of a shield wall to prevent actual criticism of the product that was put forth by 343 for people to spend their hard-earned American dollars and other jurisdictions' dollars on. So I think the people that say it was released half-baked are looking at it as a product that released without co-op, which was promised before they announced the delay.
And also promised that it wasn't going to be in the game before it released as well.
Sure. They had a hell of a time getting this game out, didn't they,
Travis? They promised that it was going to be there, and then also promised it wasn't going to be there before people spent their money. So
right.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing them of false advertising. I'm
crystal
accusing them
clear messaging.
I'm accusing them of putting a game out there that wasn't remotely close to complete. I don't know.
No game is complete when it's a game as a service. Okay. That's
yeah. And so if you can use that, then they don't have to sell you anything that's of the value that you might otherwise expect. It'll get better down the line. And look, Halo Infinite, I want to announce my tilt here for folks that don't know me or don't know that I was talking about this. I was not impressed by Infinite. I found the campaign to be wanting. I found it to go nowhere. I found it to have a story that wasn't fulfilling. I thought that they solved primarily an issue with open world Halo design that hopefully will get filled with better content in the future. But for my $60 that used to buy me, by the way, a multiplayer that updated and had armors and things like that. And yes, it's free now, but it's monetized all to hell and doesn't come with the campaign that I otherwise want to buy. I think the value proposition is significantly lowered. And I think framing a multiplayer service as well as an open world game as a live service game only is doing a disservice to the legacy of Halo as a brand, right? Halo Infinite should stand on its own for its $60, and then you can enhance it from there.
It does.
I would argue that it doesn't.
Okay.
I would argue that it doesn't, and it doesn't include things that you are used to if you're a Halo player. How in the hell is co-op not in? How in the hell is that not one of your priorities? How do you get it so wrong that you can't release it at the start of the season that you told me you would release it on? You don't have a date for me now, and you're going to be looking at a year on from actually putting the game out there. You say it's not finished. I say it wasn't close. And you can't just accept them releasing whatever the hell they want and saying we're going to patch it later. This is how you get worse and worse games coming out on release day.
That is fair, but you would have to think that Halo Infinite was bad on release day, which almost no one I know did. You're like the first person I've met that thinks that it was bad. Like, its Metacritic score is very high. Its campaign was received very well. I loved its campaign. Its multiplayer was received very well. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was really good. And I think, you know, the co-op stuff obviously is unfortunate, but it doesn't. They launched Halo Infinite saying this is what we have, and everybody said it's really good, and now they're talking about making it better. And so I think you can obviously look at it as the sky is falling, game development's getting worse because of this sort of thing. But I think it's done the opposite. Games as a service have pushed games forward. Games that normally would have died, you know, on release date are now getting a second life, and some of them are transforming the industry. Destiny is a great example of that. I mean, that game never would have survived if it didn't have a chance to grow beyond what it was. And I think fans of that game are happy that they stuck with it. Obviously, you have bad examples.
They stuck with it for a sequelized game. They had to buy in again.
But they also fixed their first game. Their first game still, like the Taken King, overhauled a lot of stuff that was broken with it. That game had more than 3 years of life, and 2 of those years were really good.
Well,
2.5.
Destiny marketed itself as a games as a service from the start. Destiny didn't have the weight of a legacy brand that is supposed to be the keystone for Microsoft.
So did Halo Infinite.
Halo Infinite announced itself as having a plan of broader ambitions, but I don't know that kind of messaging gets out to the people that actually make Halo popular. Right? You talk about the people that watch the Bitcast. You talk about the people that read IGN. That is a fraction of the people that play the big keystone games of these companies. And when you've got Halo Infinite out there trying to do something different, and I think largely failing, and we could talk about why I think Halo Infinite was graded on a curve at some point, but part of that is the disaster of 343. I think that you are looking at a game series that isn't holding up its end of the bargain for what that kind of product should be. And now you don't have dates again. I really think you're underselling the fact that corporate messaging of this statement was absolutely garbage. They can't even tell you when to expect what they promised to you. It's really disconcerting to me as a guy that's looking at a Microsoft company that is going to have 30 some odd plus developers under its belt, that they don't know how to manage the messaging or the functionality of their main game. Master Chief is Xbox. And so I'm looking at now them running ZeniMax, running Activision Blizzard, and saying, I'm not sure that Microsoft is up to it in any capacity. And if you want to be pessimistic about that, I think you have the right to, because Halo has been in various forms of undress throughout 343's ownership of the property.
Sure. Wow. And people have and will be as pessimistic as possible because it's the internet. But
now, wait a minute.
I think doing so I think doing so is a very harmful way to look at the industry. I think that it is also harmful to the logistics of making games, which is incredibly hard. And I think that making more promises that maybe they don't fill. This is a lesson the games as a service industry has learned 50 times. That when you make a promise and then you can't meet it because game development is hard, that people get more mad. So you just have to be honest with them and say, hey, look, we don't know when this is going to happen. And Bungie used to do that. They used to have a Destiny roadmap with dates for different stuff. And as soon as they got off the roadmap, the community would be up in arms, like, what the heck? And they were just like, hey, look, we're going to stop doing roadmaps because we learned this the hard way, that not everything you want to do happens. And it's really hard to keep making these promises and moving the dates around. So everybody has the right to be whatever mad you want to be. But I think it shows a colossal misunderstanding of game development today and how games as a service work. And I think you kind of have to be looking for a way to be mad about this at the end of the day, because
I really don't feel strongly about Halo Infinite as a product at all. I feel strongly about
that's clear. I mean, that's clear, and you have a right to do that. But I think it's separate from the point of is games as a service. Does this make sense in a game of service model?
I'm looking games as a service and say, the consumers, they should just be happy with whatever gruel is deigned to be fed upon them.
No, I'm looking at 343 and saying, are they being a good ambassador of a games as a service game?
And you come up with yes.
And I see them looking at other games and learning from them just based on their messaging and the things they're doing. Like, they clearly have been looking and listening and are like, all right, we're going to do things the right way based on all the stuff that's happened in the past. So just looking at that way, I think they're not stupid, and they have a plan here. And I don't know. You can not like Halo, obviously, and clearly you're not a fan. But that's
I'm a fan of the Halos 1 through 3. I think 343 has been a terrible steward. I think you're looking at messaging that if you were to actually, instead of having the Halo brand name on there, see Crystal Dynamics Avengers, you would see it for what it is, which is a delay tactic without specifics and not in a direction that anybody should be terribly thrilled about.
Funny thing is,
you can't say that. You're talking to a guy who has spent 7 years of his life playing a game that he gives 6s and 7s to. I do not have
I can't help your psychological situation, Trevor. What I can tell you,
I'm telling you, I see games for what they are, regardless of how much I'm a fan of them. I'm a critic. It's my fucking job to do that. So like, I'm not putting Halo on a pedestal. I'm saying that, you can like a game and still realize it has faults, and Halo Infinite has lots of faults. But I think people are overreacting to the fact that it's a games as a service model, and this is how it works. This is how games as a service works.
So let me interject here, because trust me, I know you guys can keep going for a while. There's a lot of comments here, and I think we've touched on something that obviously a lot of people have opinions on, because within the span of 3 comments, we got one person saying pre-choke, followed by someone cut Hoag's mic. He sounds insane. So we've got
the same comments I get in Virtual Legality. So
the funny thing is I can see points from both of you. And again, diehard, everyone knows me as a diehard Halo fanatic, and I've had a lot of discussions with all the other people I play Halo with about these updates. So I honestly, I think Hoag, you're too far over here. I think Travis is a little too far over here. But there's aspects here to both. So I would say a couple things, and let me pull up some of these comments because they do tie to what we're talking about. So John was kind of supporting Hoag's viewpoint here and just saying, Travis, these are core features that are missing. I'd rather have been delayed and released without core features. And what he's referring to, Travis, is what most of the people are complaining about here, which is campaign co-op and Forge. And basically their viewpoint is, okay, we get the roadmap for the multiplayer suite, but campaign co-op and Forge should have been there in the product launch.
But the problem I have with that argument is there's just too much of a history of those things not being there. Like, Forge wasn't in Halo 5 Guardians for the first year. Halo 5 split screen co-op was never in the game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, their models just changed too much, where I'm like, well, they told you it wasn't going to be there at the beginning. I have problems with that argument, but I get why fans are upset, and they have a right to be. Of course they do. And for the record, being upset about your game is also a staple of the games as a service industry. So this is also just things working as intended, more or less.
Well, and the other thing I remind people, right, is if you're not really close to Halo's development currently, like the Forge that is being created right now is brand new from scratch, and it's being considered literally like a game development system. Like, it is so complex from the early things we've seen that obviously the amount of testing and development that goes into it, it's far beyond just saying like, well, Halo 3 had Forge, so Halo Infinite should have Forge. Well, it's a very different environment and engine and breadth of what's being delivered with Halo Infinite's Forge versus Halo 3. It's not a one-to-one.
Of course, Hoag will say it's not his problem that they're having technical difficulties.
I mean, and actually prepping that.
And I agree with that, Hogue. I agree with that it's not the fans' problem, but yeah,
that's fair too. Now, one thing I want to touch on, which is completely off this topic, is to Rick's point, because I was just having this discussion last night. Is there's a lot of people, and Rick, you sound like you may fall in this camp of Bungie was a better steward for Halo, and Halo 1 to 3 were great, and you couldn't be further from the truth with nostalgia goggles if you tried. Literally Halo 2's debut video at E3, the content they showed didn't even make it into the game. It was cut.
Oh, I know. I love bees. Hey, man, I get you how Halo 2 was marketed.
Well,
Halo 2 was better than Halo 4, 5, and now Infinite.
Well, yeah, and that's a personal preference. But what I'm saying is that people forget how many mistakes Bungie made, how many things were cut from those games, how many things were promised that were never delivered.
I'm the last person on earth to give Bungie any kind of redress here.
Again, my point is people look at like the Bungie era of Halo as this perfect, this game was awesome, it always launched complete, it was great. And that's literally not what happened. I mean, that's just not factual.
I think you're combating a Hogue-shaped straw man on that. I would never say that about Bungie. I would say that the games that released were significantly more impactful, classic, and designed better than what 343 has added to the world.
That's a personal preference.
Well, I mean, everything we say on this Bitcast is a personal preference.
No, but you're just saying a game's more complete. What does that mean? I mean, again, to Travis,
games. I think they're better games. I think they suffered less. Okay, so you want to talk about marketing and running those kinds of things. I think 343 has had many more very public-facing tire fires than Bungie had at the time while it was releasing the Halo series.
I would just say the industry had less awareness of it. Bungie has had a long history of tire fires.
You thought that place was going to burn down. It was
do you think Bungie ever released something in the state that the Master Chief Collection was released in?
I don't think many things have been released as poorly as
that. But I mean, a tire fire was practically the Bungie company crest.
So much Reach released. I thought Bungie was going to burn to the ground. Like, you could not have seen more negative commentary about a company and a game than when Halo Reach released in my time, bar none.
It was pretty bad.
Terrible.
Pretty bad.
And Halo Reach is a game most people enjoy, I would say.
It was a Bungie Halo game. Yeah. Now lots of people love it, but they hated it when it came out.
It's the greatest game of all time,
loadouts in Halo. What the? Yeah.
Armor lock. And I mean,
look, I've been following Bungie since at least the marathon days, so I've watched them do various things, and I'm not a fan of that. We've talked at length about how much I hate what Bungie's doing with Destiny. So I am not the kind of guy that gives Bungie itself some kind of halo or pedestal to put it on. I'm just merely pointing out. And the reason I made the tweet yesterday was not even really about Halo. It was about the fact that, as we've talked about in this space, Phil Spencer et al. Are going into a new world order with what they're going to have to try to manage and decide whether they're going to take a light hand, a strong hand, or whatever kind of hand you want to describe with these developers. And I don't think that Halo Infinite anybody could describe as a successful pathway of the use of resources from when 343 started through its release of the first reveal trailer or whatever you want to call it was it a special function or E3 when Craig showed up and everybody had a field day with how Halo Infinite
that was a COVID virtual show.
It was a special Xbox event, right? Yeah. So, I am not here to simply blast people, but what I am here to say is that we should expect more. And the things I hear from Travis are the kinds of things I hear as apologia for, developers have it so hard, making software is hard. I tell you what, making movies isn't easy. Making enterprise software isn't easy. Drafting legal documents isn't easy. I still expect to get value from what I pay for when those things are out the door. And yes, Bungie Vault stuff. And they say they have these technical issues. 343 says, hey, we're releasing a brand new Forge. We're going to do these various things with co-op, which I honestly believe is just a technical issue for an open world. I don't know that they will ever solve it. So we'll see if that actually comes out in a vision that we can use in co-op and Infinite. But that is not fundamentally, as Travis has already foretold, the consumer's problem. They're $60, they're $70, they're $100. They're buying the Witch Queen Super Edition is to get the value that has been prescribed. And I think we are, as a gaming group, starting to apologize for developers, starting to apologize for crunch or time or difficulties making software in a way that is very much not to the benefit of the players of the games in the industry.
I can't get on board with that argument, because on one hand, yes, like making false promises and not delivering the full game that was promised is one thing. But there's a very fine line between that and player entitlement on what they're going to get in the future for free, right? And when you bought Halo Infinite, you understood that there was not going to be co-op in it or Forge at launch, because they told you, like, people knew that was a thing, right? And then they tell you they're going to build on it and add all the stuff for free content and multiplayer and then the campaign. And then when it doesn't get on time, players get mad. So there's a difference. It's not the same. You can't compare a movie which never changes and has, it can be a bad movie, and then you go, well, that movie was bad, to a game like No Man's Sky, where people bought for $60 and it was straight up filled with lies on what was in the game. And then over time, they kind of fixed it. There's so much nuance here that I feel like you're simplifying it down to, oh, they didn't deliver the product that they promised, and that's wrong. Which
I'll add nuance to it. I'll add nuance to it, because I think these apologies contribute to this environment, which is that I didn't buy Halo. Hang on.
Yeah.
I didn't buy Halo Infinite. I got it on Game Pass. So you're adding on to this a world in which subscription services are taking over. That's the world Microsoft would have you see. And then what that demands of developers and what they're willing to put on that product in order to get content, in order to get substance, to get retained viewers and subscribers in the door, is a part of this kind of downward slide in what our expectations are. So we've got a situation now where Halo was released, in my opinion, everything is subjective here and elsewhere, that I say, in an incomplete state. And the fix for that has been delayed because the revenue models don't quite match up when you're not actually buying in at your first gate price. So I think that you've got a situation where a whole bunch of things are combining to create this downward pressure on the actual release date version of games. I do.
So there's two points there, Rick. One, we do have to be clear. Halo Infinite is kind of a unique beast, right? Because the multiplayer suite is free, right, for everyone. And then you've got this Halo campaign, which was $60 or Game Pass, to your point. And so people can look at the campaign delivery as, is this worth my $60? Is this considered content complete separately from multiplayer? So we do obviously have to make that designation. But to your point, Rick, I forget the words you just used there, but you said something to the effect of development costs impacting the delivery. If I heard you correctly.
We don't have a close enough tie, right? It used to be pretty easy. We sell the copies of the games, and then those games make the certain revenue. We can start allocating budget, figuring out what makes sense for release, et cetera, et cetera. Game Pass offers essentially an open portal to put whatever you want on there, with the promise that it will change it. We'll fix it in post, as they might say in movie land, right? And I think you are seeing certain pressures on that. I think Halo Infinite is one of the biggest that we've seen it in.
Okay, so
that's crazy to me. Yeah, I don't see how you can play Halo Infinite and think that they released an incomplete game that
I don't either.
I mean, I think all you have to do is watch the story to know that campaign isn't remotely.
My God, dude, it's just it's part of a story. That doesn't mean that it's incomplete. If you go and see Star Wars,
something, but that doesn't mean it's incomplete.
Okay, so if you go see Star Wars: A New Hope and you're like, what? This didn't contain Empire or Return of the Jedi. It's an incomplete experience because it wasn't the whole trilogy. It's part of a story. That's how ongoing sagas work. You don't get the whole thing.
Sagas.
Yeah, it's a saga.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, you picked a bad example because A New Hope's pretty self-contained, but I know you know that. So that's totally fine.
Well, I was expecting Empire and Return, Hogue. I was expecting it, and you said you'd give it to me.
So yeah, I mean the promise
None
of
those
Halo
things happened, Travis. Your metaphor is going way off kilter.
I'm just saying. I'm saying. Of course, I'm saying it doesn't make sense. That's the point.
To Travis's point, Infinite was sold as an ongoing development. Same way with Destiny, right? When you played, to your point, Travis, when you played Vanilla Destiny, you knew that story pretty much sucked originally.
Yeah, for sure.
Not awful.
Yeah, but that
did feel like an incomplete game, and also they made promises that were not in it. But I just don't feel like Halo comes anywhere near that. No, it's just because I've been in this industry for so long, games as a service specifically, that I know
that your expectations have been sufficiently lowered in order.
That's not true at all. I
understand.
It's not true at all. I just know that games are. They say the messaging was it's expected to grow. Here's what we have. Grade it on what we have. And the response to that was, we love what you have. Largely, you're obviously an exception to it. It's not a No Man's Sky situation where like literally it was like, you lied to us. This game is terrible. Nothing you said was going to be in it is in it, and now you're fixing it in post. Those two things are so far from each other. I don't think any reasonable person could say that they're even close to being similar.
Yeah, the question you guys are trying to solve is, did the Halo Infinite campaign deliver a $60 experience for itself, even with the promise of it being part of a larger tale that's to be told over time? And in my opinion, and to Travis's point, and this is not to team up on you, Rick, but to Travis's point, I think it's pretty clear, at least not universally. Of course, nothing's universal, but I think on a large scale, most people agree that this campaign was pretty stellar. It has high review scores across the board. We did Halo roundtables with a lot of Halo fans. Most, I would argue, knowing the Halo community like I do, I would say the majority, at least the majority of Halo fans really enjoyed Infinite for its campaign. Now, if you don't feel that way, that's fine. But I don't think it takes away from, I don't think that means that Infinite didn't deliver.
I fully believe that Halo Infinite was, I believe that Halo Infinite was graded on the curve that most folks were expecting it to be a tire fire based on the year that they had presenting it. I honestly do believe that, and I think that history will prove me right on that for this particular game, but it'll take a little while. But in all honesty, it's not just Halo. I think Travis and I are going to have to agree to disagree at the end of this, but I legitimately do hear the same kind of lowering of expectations that have permeated the industry at a mass level with respect to Halo and other products like this. I'm just not going to go there. I expect you to release a product that I find to be polished and finished. And I don't think Halo Infinite was that, but I don't think a whole host of games are that. I could drag in a whole bunch of them because I think that's the direction the industry is headed. And often using the shield that this is just the way it is now. We don't want to crunch, so we'll give you a half game.
We have just found common ground, Hogue. Because I agree with you 100% that sometimes the games as a service model and the fact that games get updates is used as a shield for bad quality. I think the argument that Halo Infinite gets anywhere near that is absurd to me. Absurd, which is why I'm so hard on this thing, because I have played the bad ones, Hogue. I reviewed Crossfire. I review the games that come out bad. And guess what? When they do, I say this game is shit. And then it goes, it gets labeled with a 3 forever. And no matter what updates they do, it gets that grade, and it's just that grade forever. No Man's Sky will always have that POC on its Metacritic score because it released so poorly. So I've seen the bad examples, and I think it's really hard to look at Halo Infinite as its just public reception and say this was released in a state and it's indicative of this thing. Yes, you're right, actually, that games are increasingly being released unfinished, and that but I just think that the free market is finding those guys pretty quickly and slapping bad reviews on them, and people are not buying those games because there are a few exceptions. I legitimately
think the Halo release was designed almost scalpel-like precision to confuse the legacy media reviews on this stuff. I mean, the multiplayer being pulled out and made free, which was once a part of the product that you bought for $60, and it's because it's free, can now monetize it itself within an inch of its life, is not how those value propositions.
It's all cosmetic stuff. I don't even really get the like. Well, I reviewed Crossfire X with pay-to-win microtransactions.
It's also the way of multiplayer industry. It's how your multiplayer games are delivered today. I mean,
that's how they survive. Yeah. They die if you put them behind a gate. I mean,
just Battlefield is a perfect example.
But you're justifying it because that's the way things are done, and that's not what the Halo package was. Again, I think the argument here is different for a company that has a legacy of a brand that had something that was something, and then separating it out and doing whatever the modern microtransaction.
But now you're saying you'd rather Halo have been a $60 release that included multiplayer with map packs to come in the future? I mean,
I'd rather have it be something that represented a value proposition that looked at all like its purchase price to me. I mean, whatever that looks like. I'm not in the development business, right? You figure it out to make it worthwhile for my time.
I think they did figure it out, and the market responded.
I think that's where
I don't think the market responded to Halo Infinite. I think Game Pass responded to Halo Infinite. That's part of this story.
I mean, I don't think that matters, actually. I mean, unless you care about Microsoft's finances, I don't care at all. I don't own stock in them, but
no, I just don't think that you can quite say that. I don't think that it means as much for Forza Horizon 5 to have 18 million players in the first month when comparing it to the previous Forza Forza Horizon. We'll go with that name in the future sometime. And other games in gaming. There's going to be a mass disconnect between the kinds of things that Microsoft is reporting and using those as advertising, and they're brilliant. I think Microsoft's Game Pass product is brilliant, and they're going the right direction with finding a way for them to succeed in this industry. But the things that say, oh, well, Halo's this popular or Horizon's this popular, things, it all gets confused with, the minute somebody watches Red Notice on Netflix now, because that doesn't mean that it would have made $600 million in the opening weekend of the
I agree that is true, and it's not apples to apples to the copies sold of Halo 4, etc. But I also think it doesn't matter at all. I mean, would you say that Apex isn't a huge success just because it's free? And sure, lots of people who wouldn't have played it because it's free. This is how you get people in the door, and then you make your money through cosmetics that who cares, right? Who cares if somebody has like a green tunic on their Master Chief character? It's like that's the way, that's the model now. The model is to get people to play your game at any cost, lowering barriers to do that. And if your game is popular, that is significant because they could be spending their time playing other games that are also free. People that aren't playing Apex, people that aren't playing Apex and are playing Halo Infinite.
Yield that on our biggest brands. Engagement being the king of all things is fine, but I don't think that we can just say, well, this Halo should be accepted because that's the way things are done now.
I agree, and I once again, I don't think that Halo
meets
that bar at all, and it's just.
I think it's our only disconnect. Where I think honestly, the four of us probably agree on a lot of the points being made here about game delivery, games releasing unfinished, games as a service, everything. I think that the one main disconnect we're having here, it sounds like, is that Rick, you feel that Halo Infinite didn't deliver a $60 contained experience for what it launched as, and I think Travis and I are saying it did, and I think that's probably fundamentally where we differ.
Probably.
That's fair.
Although, once again, my experience with the games as a service industry is like just I can't find my way to kind of.
I can't help but hear that argument as I've lowered my expectations so far that more is acceptable to me.
No, I
can't help but hear it that way.
I was trying to move us forward, and you brought us right back.
It's not. It is not lowered expectation. It's really just
Would you know if it was?
I would, and I could make the same argument that I think that you are out of touch because you don't.
I get that all the time.
You haven't evolved to this level of really understanding how the industry works, but I'm not going to do that to you.
I do evolve in the direction you have evolved, Travis.
Yeah.
I'm dying here.
And that's a very old man screaming at clouds thing to say, but
this has been one of our best.
That is a fair.
It's not me. It's the children who are wrong. I keep saying this. All right.
And every old generation before you would agree. They would agree.
So I've got. This has been great, guys. By the way, chat is popping off. We've literally got, where was it? Back to back, we got Travis for the win, and then I'm with Hogue on this back to back. So, but anyway, super chats that came in, and sorry guys, chat kind of started going, so these are a bit old, but let's get to them real quick.
Oh, thanks, Paul. The $5 super chat. Dan, you're off the hook. Rick missing a lot of aspects.
I know I can't really understand them. There's something about fragments and void powers now. I don't fully get it, but I'm gonna get there.
Yeah. You have to buy them from Akora. It's really stupid.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to figure out her and spend Glimmer. Don't worry about it, Cerebral Paul.
Paul, thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Michael
Patton with a $10 super chat. That is the worst argument I've ever heard from Hogue, respectfully. Travis is the voice of reason and 100% right. Halo Infinite is not Halo 6. It is something entirely else. Destiny, Gambit
Michael Patton is my alt account, by the way. That's my $10.
Michael, thank you very much. Michael left us a very he also left us a very nice comment the other day on one of our videos, basically about the conversations we're having and the type of podcast we are. So thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate the super chat, appreciate the feedback, and appreciate the support. So thank you very much. And I think we kind of touched on that, right? It's kind of what we were saying is that Halo Infinite it is, whether you like it or not, it is a completely different model of game delivery than Halos of the past or even games of the past. And that kind of changes things for right or wrong, which we've covered. Gecko Gamer again back in the house.
Yeah, man. This is crazy. The €5. I will say that players have all the rights to be as entitled as they damn well please. And I agree.
I don't think they've ever had a problem with that.
No.
Very true. Gecko, thanks to you for the super chats today. Really appreciate it. he's not wrong. I mean, gamers will set the expectations they personally have,
and they should. That's healthy, just to be fair. I mean, it is healthy.
Yeah.
Well, entitled is used as a swear word, right? It's used as an ad hominem, and it shouldn't be, because there's something that they were entitled to. I mean, we obviously can all agree on the baseline, a functional code, something that puts a menu screen up on your PlayStation. You're entitled to that for your $60.
Battlefield didn't even do that.
Yeah, there you go. You're entitled to a scoreboard that says things. And so, yeah, I think that it's easy to say over entitled, and put everybody else in a camp that's bratty school children that want more than they can give. But I'm just not inclined to give too much purchase to excuse making for deficits that I find in games outside of Halo. Let's just separate out from the love or non-love of Halo. I think that there are plenty of places where criticism and critique is warranted of what these game companies are doing. And right now, they're using corporate messaging and labels like games as a service or live services or patches or things or promises of those lines. And now what we're seeing, I'm going to be honest with you here, now what we're seeing with Halo and other games, Halo is not the only one to do this, is a general understanding that there is some usefulness, there's some utility to saying, well, we didn't deliver this, or we're taking more time, or we're doing something else because we're so worried about the mental health of our developers, or we want to avoid crunch, or these kinds of things. Some of which is undoubtedly true, some of which is not. Some of which is being used as a very useful way to tell people that they're not going to get what they thought they were going to get. And here's something that it's very difficult to fight against on social media or in other avenues, because you can take the high ground and the other folks will look like assholes. Yeah. And so I think you're seeing that more and more. I would expect to see it more and more and more, because it's a very useful mechanism for these developers. And some will be used by bad actors. I'm not saying 343 is a bad actor on this, but some will be. And I think it's worth noting, because we have seen it gain a lot of traction because of the way the games industry is covered.
But the beautiful thing about criticism is it doesn't care how big your studio is or how well rested they are. If it's a bad game, it gets a bad score. If it's a good game, it gets a good score. And players judge games the same way. They don't think about the studio when they decide if it's bad or good. So I could see how they could use it as a shield publicly, and fine, whatever. But
they do specifically for delays. Very often
for delays as well, but it doesn't make their game good. And so I think there is a natural check on that, which is that gamers do not suffer fools. Usually they are pretty on the gun when it comes to calling people out and aggressively not liking things. I would say probably too much, but this is a guy who's received death threats. So
that is too much, folks.
Too much. If you're sending me, and actually this story has a happy ending, which is the guy who sent me death threats. I saw him. He was so adamant. He was so adamant that this game was going to be great. He sent me a bunch of DMs online as well before the mail. And a month later, when the game came out, I saw him sending death threats to the developers for how bad their game was.
Oh,
so he switched. He switched.
What a nice guy.
He's wanting to kill people.
That's an interesting happy ending.
Yeah, it is an interesting happy ending.
Dark episode of Black
It's very
Mirror.
dark, but apparently he just wants to kill everyone that he is currently not happy with. So
I honestly don't know how you put up with that kind of stuff, Travis. I can assure you, you're not going to get a death threat from me. It's against my bar ethics rules.
And I wouldn't expect it. Yeah,
I missed Nick saying we need an Ace Attorney objection
for sure.
I think I'll be playing Ace Attorney later today.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, you just sitting here and listening to this was fantastic, but I'm kind of on both sides. Halo Infinite, the model that it used, anyway, I thought was comparatively amazing. Only because we've seen a lot of these other games as a service come out and they're just complete trash, or they're not really filled, I guess, at launch. And I guess that's what they are. But then you look, I mean, just even recently, Babylon's Fall just released. It's a game as a service. It looks like it's getting lit up. I couldn't even get into the game, let alone,
What you want to do is release a poorly optimized game that looks like a game when Elden Ring is out. That's how you succeed as a company right there.
100%. I mean, you've got, at what point do these companies look at all of these other examples? If this is where the industry is going, you've seen successes in games like Fortnite and Apex to a certain extent, And then you look at games that have completely fell on their face, Outriders, which I enjoyed, but or Anthem, same thing. It's here's what not to do. Here's what you can do. It's never going to be that perfect, I think game. You're just never going to get it. I didn't play any Halo multiplayer, so I couldn't tell you a whole lot about it, but it seemed like the community, from what I've seen, was pretty happy with it. Campaign for me, I mean, that's kind of a different story. But I don't know, man. I mean, I hate it. I hate all games as a service. I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of them. Like, I loved Anthem, but then it just stopped and there was no content. And then it just, I thought they had really good mechanics. I thought they had, an interesting story that they could really expound upon. They just never did. And they just decided, we're done. And that was really kind of disappointing for me. So I've been kind of jaded since then. And
Division 2 is probably a good one, don't you think?
Division 2, right, because they came out, but that also, I think, kind of like I'm saying,
out of Steam though. It had the same thing happen.
It did, but it also came out on the heels of one of the worst games as a service, Anthem, releasing right before it. So it's like, oh, this is way better than that. Look at this, So you're always comparing all these games to each other, and it's just timing and hitting when the striking when it's hot. That's what you have to do, I think, with these services. And I've said that 100 times before. Gamers have a very small, period of how much interest they're going to show in a game, and you really got to give them that reason to stay there, and because there's so much competition, and the next new thing could come out tomorrow and just completely surprise you, like, oh, hey, well, but I don't know, man. Halo seemed like it succeeded where a lot of these other ones failed. That being said, these other ones failed so spectacularly that it's kind of hard to measure, how successful it was, because I didn't really play it. But I would just say,
sorry, Dan,
give me single player games and then I'm good.
Well, I was going to say, we mentioned Apex a couple times there, and funny enough, I went back and looked this morning because I know that I played quite a bit of Apex when it launched. I fell off of it, and then I wanted to go back and look and say, okay, what was their cadence? Because I can't remember how Respawn
pretty
did.
Long.
Yeah, and basically what I found was they did 3-month seasons as well, but very little content between seasons. In fact, a couple of their seasons, especially early on, were like, okay, here's one new character and a gun. And it's like, okay, that's what you're going to get for 6 months of time. And yet, we sit here, and Apex is one of the most successful games on the market. What'd they say? 30 million plus players. It continues to thrive. And I think they too have gotten better with cadence. There's multiple maps now, ton of characters, and they kind of ramped up to that. So I'm hoping that's what we see out of Halo Infinite multiplayer. And it feels like that's where they're trying to get to. But then you have other ones like Battlefield 2042. To your point, Rick, it launched as a full-priced product, which obviously brings with it the expectations of it didn't even have a campaign, right? It's a $60 multiplayer experience that fundamentally was broken. And they came out this week because people were not happy with the update they gave a few weeks ago, rightfully so, because they basically said nothing. They came out this week and said, we want to redesign the map layouts, the number of players per map, the engagements. I mean, you're talking about fundamental game design they want to change. And they from the article, said it will take a substantial amount of time to do so.
So it sounded like the Anthem 2.0 announcement.
That just goes to show, though, that like the model doesn't protect the game from being bad or good. Like, it can be a $60 game up front that's supposed to be polished on day one, and it can be bad, and it can be games as a service that's supposed to be built over time, and it can be great at day one. I just think, it's up to people to kind of decide what model that they want to produce content or enjoy it. And I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but I feel like people aren't really mad at Halo Infinite as a game or what it's delivered so far. They're mad at the model and the cadence. And I just think their expectations aren't really in line with what we've seen as like the norm for the industry in terms of how long it takes to make content, what you can expect in terms of timeline shifting, because that just happens all the time in the industry, stuff like that. That's like normal to me. Everything 343 said sounded like, oh yeah, that's normal games as a service stuff. This is like what happens when you're trying to set yourself up. And hey, this is why Sony bought Bungie. They want to understand how to do this because Bungie has figured it out. They have a separate teams working on different types of content drops in tandem and like releasing it, and they've figured it out over 7 years, and Sony wants that. So this is going to be a big part of the industry, and I don't think the model itself is bad or good. It's just different, and there's room for both to be successful, and both can be good and both can be terrible.
Yeah, and I think, Rick, you have a valid point as well in thinking of the bigger picture here, which is, let's assume that you're disappointed with Halo Infinite's delivery as a consumer right now, right? And 343's managing of the Halo franchise. I think your concern pointed out around, okay, we're looking at a situation where Xbox leadership now manages a huge, a range of massive IPs that are in this space, not only Halo, but you're talking about Gears of War, you're talking about Call of Duty, you're talking about all these other things coming down the line. And if you feel that they're not managing Halo well, what does that outlook look like for potentially all these other franchises, and does change need to occur? So I could see the concern there as well.
Well, I mean, they're going to control some of the biggest brands in gaming.
Yes.
And the notion that this is a good thing is premised around Microsoft being a good publisher that can get things out the door at a relatively good clip, that are high quality and that satisfy consumers. And I've said this throughout as these acquisitions have happened. I think it's well and good that Microsoft is spending money in the industry. I think that's a good thing overall. But not even Phil Spencer, if he were sitting here with a truth serum, could tell you that he can promise that they are set up and that their management is ready to run 30 sub-on developers.
Anything but a sure thing. Anything but a sure thing.
And I think that 343 and Playground and some of the stuff they've done already, evidence is that they would really like to take a light hand. They'd really like to take a autonomous approach to development. And I've said before that with 34 developers, that's going to work for some and it's not going to work for others. And how this actually gets realized is part of the interesting bit of the story. So I have my issues with Halo, in particular the campaign, which I don't view as a live service as presented like Travis does. But reasonable minds can differ on that, as they always can. I think regardless of how you feel about Halo, it's going to be an adventure to see what Microsoft does, and bureaucracies fail at adding fewer additional components than what Microsoft has just done in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And it seems like Microsoft has only shown us the carrot so far. And with Activision, there's got to be a stick, because there's no way they're absorbing Activision and taking that same do whatever you want approach. And so to your point, we haven't seen what the stick looks like on Microsoft yet, or if they even can do a stick, just based on what we've seen in the past with them controlling their studios and the quality of their games. So I'm very interested to see how that progresses. But you're right. I have no idea how it's going to go. It seems like a monumental task that maybe $1 trillion can solve, but maybe not.
Money can't solve it. It's managers. You can't throw money at this stuff.
Money can hire managers.
Money can hire managers, but hiring the right people is the trick, right? You can get Lucasfilm or you can get Marvel. I apologize, Travis. I know you're just going to disagree with me on that explanation anyway. But you can get a right hand or a strong hand needed from various different content providers. And figuring that out is part of the question. Putting the right people in place is part of the question. You're talking about such a massive change to what Microsoft gaming is that, I mean, if you were just putting a gun to my head and asked me to bet, I'd say that is a slim chance of working out to the maximal extent that we would hope. And so we can only hope that it'll be good overall.
Yeah, agreed. That integration is tough, right? You can, even if you hire, say, 100 TPMs, technical program managers that are very good at their job and expertise.
Perfect. Yeah. That interface well.
Even if you do integrating them properly, being set up for success. I mean, there's just a wealth of factors that go into this being successful. So
and it's art. They're not making widgets. It's tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah. We got a nice comment here. Best show today by far in a slow news week.
For sure, man. I'm ready to jump back into that raid. This got me juiced.
No, I mean that's what we want to do, right? I've said it before, as our Infinity Stones have come together, and the four of us are now our Constructicon show. Is that we want to have a topic every week that we can have discussions like this, broader discussions that get a little deeper into something meaningful, and that the community and you guys in live chat can be a part of. So I really enjoyed it today, and I think it should be clear, and we've said this before, that there's going to be plenty of times where we have different viewpoints or disagree or counter each other. It's not an antagonistic or negative way. It's just us commenting and from our viewpoint. And
I love Travis more, man. I love Travis more after this kind of stuff. You know how few people will just throw down with me? This is great stuff. This is make me feel alive again, Snake. Let's go.
To say, and for me, I really, really appreciate points perspectives I don't agree with that are argued really well, and I can always expect that from you. Like when we disagree, at least I know you'll have reasons and very strong points, and it's like that makes you a sharper person. It makes you question your own beliefs, and
how we grow.
It's
100%.
So,
and I think 100%. And it's funny.
Except for Dan's views, you don't grow at all from those. You just kind of wait for him to finish talking. Yeah,
that's wrong. This is kind of a good segue, actually, in closing, because last month I sat down with Colin Moriarty of Last Stand Media for a Patreon exclusive chat. They're monthly exclusive, so it's been exclusive for this whole past, actually more than a month. But I put it live yesterday, and so it's got a few thousand views on it now, and I got a lot of comments on it. And a couple of the comments were around Colin's persona, around how he approaches things, right? And how Ains, a couple of people asked me, Ains, how can you sit down and talk with Colin? Like he's not a good person, and whatever people's beliefs are. And I said part of what I wanted to demonstrate with this conversation, and it ties into what we're saying here, is that people need to just sit down and have an honest conversation once in a while. Even if you disagree with someone on a viewpoint or an opinion, we share a lot more in common than we don't, right? At our core. And I think that people need to realize that it doesn't always have to be here and here, right and wrong, red versus blue, my team versus your team. Sit down, have a conversation. You can have differing viewpoints and still have a good conversation, and you will learn and you will grow in the process. And it seems like in the internet age, and I know I'm probably gonna sound like an old man here, but it feels like we've gotten away from that to some degree. And I really enjoyed this conversation today, guys, because we obviously had a lot of differing viewpoints, and I think we had a great conversation because of it, not in spite of it. And I think that's beneficial to gaming discourse, and we need more of it in this industry. So there's my closing comment for the day. Closing comment time. So anyway, with that, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. A couple things to note. Like I said, my conversation with Colin is up on the channel. It's open to everyone now. Please give it a look. It was a great chat. Really enjoyed myself. And, you may come away with something there. We've also got our latest episode of Cast Co-op is up. Me, Joe, and Luke just talking about a lot of things, including the accessibility discussion around Elden Ring. Check that out. We've got thoughts on Horizon coming this week from Steve, who's been writing those up and spending a lot of time with that game, as we discussed prior here. And if you weren't aware, my Elden Ring guide has been shared really broadly, so thank you all for that. It's surprising how many hits it's gotten. And I've also been doing a live stream playthrough of Elden Ring where I share a lot of insight into player builds, NPC interactions, places to go and find. So if you're interested in that, you can find me on Twitch as well. So, we got a super chat right at the end. Michael Patton following up.
That's just not true, Michael Patton.
Yeah, you're killing me with the butte, baby.
Yeah, you weren't here when he was talking trash on Star Wars: The Lost Jedi. So we got
my dog was started to bark, so I had to mute it. All right, Michael Patton, $2. I will say it's Hoag's only bad argument so far.
Hey, that means you're batting well if it's your only bad.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I've got a lot of bad arguments. So.
Yeah, no, it's just not true. But I appreciate the sentiment, Michael. Hey, like I say, reasonable minds can differ. Reasonable disagreement is the spice of life. Travis already gave the whole pitch. It is how you grow. Maybe you convince the other person of something important. Maybe they convince you. That's our fun conversations. This is great.
Yeah,
this is like law school for me. It's fantastic.
And to Ains's point, the worst thing you could do is retreat and not talk to these people, stop growing, and just write them off as irredeemable people that can't grow or change their minds. That's just not how you live in a society.
Yep,
that's how I live in my society.
Yeah, that's how Dan wants us all to live.
Just in my little bubble here.
So get the bubble. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up, boys. Travis, what you working on? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so my Witch Queen review will probably be late. I was trying to get it up by Monday. I haven't beaten the raid. They extended it a 24-hour period for the hard mode, which means that now I can't do what I was planning on doing today, which is just play the easy mode of the raid to get through it. So we're probably going to have to wait a little bit. I might beat it today, but I after doing 24 hours yesterday, I kind of have it out of me. I also didn't plan on spending all today doing it, so I need to catch up on, eating food and doing my laundry. That said, if you haven't had enough of me somehow, I will be on the Iron Lord podcast today in 20 minutes. So I'll be sitting right here. We're going to be talking about the Destiny raid on Iron Lord podcast. So I'll be hopping in live with them. Their show is already live right now. So I'm just like jumping in to kind of give my thoughts on Destiny. And then I'm going to leave and take a nap. That's my plan. So other than that, you can read everything I write on IGN.com. That's where I exclusively make my content these days. And you can also follow me on Twitter at TyGuyTravis if you want to see me and Hogue banter back and forth and set each other up for future fights at Bitcast. That's what we spend a lot of our time doing.
We do that, don't we?
We do that. Yeah, it's nice. Twitter. It's nice little Sunday. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. Yeah. Hogue and Travis going live.
No, that's exactly right. Hey, you gotta find the way that Twitter can be useful, because believe me, it's like searching through the sand to find some diamonds. But certainly those kinds of interactions are fantastic. And if you want to follow me, teach Travis a thing or two on Twitter, it's at HoagLaw, just as the same as Virtual Legality in my YouTube channel, which is /HoagLaw. I didn't even bring up half the stuff we've been talking about on the channel this last week. We've got sweepstakes rules problems in California, people pulling computers away from folks that rightfully won them, all the interactions that went with that. And of course, the Activision Blizzard Microsoft Power Hour, which I did 2 videos of this week. And I already got 2 more lined up because some lawsuits were filed, some accusations about gender discrimination were levied once again. So in the very lighthearted world of dealing with Activision Blizzard, you can come check that out on my channel almost certainly this week. So please do that. We're having these conversations. And because we're bad at it, allow me to say this. We hit 10,000. Would love to keep that train going. Everybody else on this podcast is worthy of following. I'm not including myself. But you should check this out. You should subscribe here. You should give all those up votes, those down votes. You should do a dance. You should add engagement. Tell me why I'm wrong. Talk to me about the nature of the Master Chief. Give me some comments that will help set me on the right path, because YouTube loves that stuff. So please do that. And we'll get that number up of subscribers up before you know it. So please do all those things. This is one of the best places on the internet. Let's show YouTube that it is.
Thank you very much, Rick. Dan, how are you going to top that?
I'm not. I'm going to say thanks, guys. Good show today.
Yeah, appreciate you, chat. You've been fantastic today. Seriously, a lot of great comments, a lot of great interaction. Thank you so much. Anyone listening to this later, I hope you enjoy it. We had a blast today. This was a fun one, and of course, we will be back next Sunday. Until then, enjoy yourself, and thanks for listening to the Bitcast, your weekly gaming show, where we talk about, if I could even get this out, where we talk about all things Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and PC with industry and technical insight. Until next week.